Twinkle, twinkle, little star.
He's alive!
Welcome to Where the Weird Ones Are.
Every time I speak, I want the truth to come out.
Powerful figures in Hollywood as well as powerful politicians who are in fact not human. They're reptiles or they're lizards or perhaps extraterrestrials.
I don't think it is a human. I think it's a Sasquatch.
Go ahead and run. Run home and cry to mama.
Let's get weird.
What's up, you fucking weirdos? Welcome to another episode of Where the Weird Ones Are. My name is Kevin, but you probably already knew that, and if you didn't, now you do. Today's episode is with none other than the Mr. Bobby Shue. He has a podcast called Mystic Talk where he talks about phenomenal shit. He loves the idea of aliens and UFOs, which we actually talk about on this on his episode. We talk a little bit about flat earth theory because we both find it extremely interesting, although neither one of us are like married to like having like that being real. But like the discussion and the research that, you know, these people get into with it is extremely fascinating. That the track of their mind, to me anyway. Some people don't really get down with it and they think it's kind of stupid, but you know, it is what it is. I used to think it was stupid until I actually started listening to people talk about it. So but that being said, we also talk about how Bobby decided to walk away from the political left. He no longer feels like it is a place for him. He doesn't feel comfortable in within his rainbow community. So he has decided to walk away from just modern day liberalism. So not that if you're a liberal, that's totally fine. It's totally fine. Listen, nobody has to agree with you. Your opinion is your opinion. Your belief is your belief. No matter at the end of the day, as long as you find peace within yourself, that is all that matters. I am a conservative. Bobby has decided to join. Now, I say that I'm conservative. I will tell you I'm conservative, but I am not Republican. Listen, there's a big difference when you realize that no matter whether you're red or blue, like, or elephant or donkey, like the whole kit and caboodle out there in Washington, D.C., it's all full of people looking to line their own pockets, and they don't want to work for you. They're working for themselves. So, the reason why I say I'm conservative is because there's a lot of beliefs and things that I align myself in on that side. I'm not saying that politically I vote that way. I'm just saying that my beliefs are align with that side. So, anyways, regardless, Bobby was amazing. The last time, if you guys have been listening since frickin' the beginning, or at least since Conspiracy Tuesday #1, you'll recognize Bobby from that episode, which came out a couple months ago. And a lot of people really liked things that he had to say. He's really all about, like, pull yourself up from your bootstraps. Like, fucking, you're not a victim. You're making yourself a victim. The longer you cry, woe is me, the longer you're going to stay in that state. You got to get yourself out. Nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's coming to save us as a collective. We need to come together, and even within our differences. Again, we don't need to agree on everything. We don't need to agree on everything. I'm repeating myself for some reason to get along. So, with that being said, this episode's a little bit different than normal. I didn't have Bobby to come on to discuss, like, his hauntings or his paranormal activity or anything like that. Again, but we do talk about UFOs and aliens, as he is very interested in that aspect. If you listen to his podcast Mystic Talk, you'll be able to pick up on that. So he's very spiritual. He's come a long way. You'll hear things that he was doing, things that he got himself into, and he just became one with himself, started loving himself. His spiritual journey is still a path that he is walking, as am I. So I see him for who he is, and he's a beautiful person, and I hope you guys really give him a chance, and hopefully things that he has to say will resonate with you. And it will cause you to want to listen to his podcast. So, with that being said, if you want to come on the show and talk about conspiracies, paranormal activity, your own hauntings, maybe you've encountered a cryptid of some kind or anything supernatural, definitely hit me up. If you want to talk about mental health or spirituality, we can do that too. Like any weird topic, anything that is weird. Because this is where the weird ones go to discuss. This is where we are. This is where the weird ones are. So, you can get me at wheretheweirdoneare@gmail.com. You can also find me on Facebook, Where the Weird Ones Are, which, again, I will say, like I say a million times, I continuously forget that I have a Facebook page. But when I do, I post something. It's very random and sporadic. But I'm also on Instagram, where_the_weird_ones_are. That is where I am most active. And a couple shout outs for a couple podcasts. Now, One Nothing. That's a WON Nothing. Please check her out. She's doing amazing shit. The Conversation Cabin. She just had Cryptid Warfare, another podcast, come out to her property to investigate her land for possible Bigfoot, maybe even Dogman, who knows. So stay tuned with her. Hopefully we'll learn more about that situation. Cryptid Warfare, they're going to be next week's episode, so please stay tuned for that. Shook podcast, that's a good one. You should check that out. They like to randomly just start singing, like they'll just be talking and they'll be like, yeah. That was a terrible representation of that, but you get what I'm saying. And they have beautiful voices, and they're beautiful people. They talk about like true crime. They talk about, spooky things, stories that have them shook. So please go check out that podcast. Also, Three Siblings Walk Into a Bar. That is another podcast that you have to check out. It's three siblings talking about true crime. Their perspective on each story they tell is phenomenal. I listen to it every week. So, and they have also recorded with me, so that episode should be coming out soon. So, without further ado, everybody, put your hands together for Bobby Shue, episode 43. All right, everybody. I hope you have a good day. I hope you have a good night. And stay weird.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Let's get weird. Let's get weird. Let's get weird. Let's get weird. Weird. Get weird.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Where the Weird Ones Are. I would like to welcome today's guest. His name is Bobby Shue. He has a podcast called Mystic Talk. A lot of you have reached out to me on my very first Conspiracy Tuesday of my conspiracy series and had a lot of positive feedback for Bobby and the things that he had to say on there. So I invited him on by himself so all of you could listen to him talk some more and talk some sense, because he makes a lot of sense. He makes a lot of sense to me. I've been listening to his podcast since he started this one. He did another podcast I remember him mentioning on Mystic Talk. So Bobby, I was really curious what really sparked your brain to be like, hey man, I want to start this podcast, and the process of coming up with the name. Hey man, you got to go away. You wait until I hit the record button to come walking in here every time. But so yeah,
Is
if
that
you
your
don't,
dog?
yeah, it's my dog.
Yeah, mine are here with me too.
Yeah, she is a Staffordshire Bull Terrier, and she has such a strong freaking tail, man. She walks in here, she thinks she owns the place, and she whacks everything with her tail and creates all these noises.
That's mine. My border collie lab, and I have a Chihuahua terrier.
Yeah.
So both are sleeping right now. So I think we're good.
So real quick before we really dive into it, if you don't mind just telling everybody where they can find you and tell everybody what got you started on your podcast.
Well, it's called Mystic Talk. You can find it on Spotify. Honestly, I went to Spotify looking for myself just to see how accessible it was. So it says Mystic Talk teaser. So if you just click on that, I'm technically challenged, so I'm just lucky I'm able to upload. But what started the podcast was literally a spiritual journey that started back. It's been some years now, but prior to the podcast, I've actually always wanted to do this, but it started back when I was, I think I'm turning 40 this year. So it started around age 32. I got into a DUI accident. Luckily, no one was hurt. But I had a habit of, drinking after work, usually wine. And us winos don't believe we're alcoholics, but we're called winos. Since now we have to say things politically correct these days. So
Right.
I'm a recovering wino. And that was, I always enjoyed like a good Malbec and finish a bottle and if I felt up to it, I'd go and grab another one. And so I was headed down the street to my local 7-Eleven before midnight, before they stopped selling it, and had about 5 minutes to spare. Light turns red, but it was that little 2 seconds of a window that I thought I could just speed. U-Haul hit me. And then, long story short, when I saw the accident, I thought, had it just been a hair closer to the impact, I mean, it probably would have maybe damaged my legs. Maybe I would not have been walking, could have died. But all in all, I mean, that didn't even sink into me. That didn't even resonate until, going through the whole process and with the lawyers, them showing me the video. And but honestly, I'm being very transparent when I say this. It was kind of a relief when it happened, because it shook me up so bad. I've never been in trouble before, and it shook me up to the core, to where I literally, I've had no desire to go back to that whole drinking bit. So I guess you could call me a functioning alcoholic, because I didn't think about it during the day. Didn't, was never one to go to lunch and have a drink. It was always in the comfort of my home, introvertly, because I was never really big on, clubs, bars. Just I like being at home with my wine. So it never affected my work performance, anything like that. So I just never thought about, hey, I have a problem. But due to that situation, I read across a video on YouTube. It was with Shirley MacLaine, called Out on a Limb. And for those that don't know it, you can type in Shirley MacLaine's Out on a Limb, and it's a 2-part miniseries. And it talks about her spiritual journey at the time. She was turning 40, and I was 32, literally just going through the process. But that video hit me at the right time, because I had just kind of, I basically shut off all social media. Facebook was my go-to, so I shut all that off. Had no desire to go back to it. And it was kind of a test too, to just see who would reach out to Bobby, who would reach out to me and had my best interests. And only a handful of people actually know about the DUI. So I was embarrassed. I felt shame. And but it was the best thing that could have happened to me. It honestly, it was worth every penny, in all honesty, because I learned a lot about myself. And I told myself when I was sitting, well, let me back up a minute. There was, I discovered the root of my drinking was always feeling like I had to impress my father. My father was one of those that I always wanted to please, be successful. And I always felt that if I presented something to him and I won him over, I felt accomplished in that sense. So a lot of my drinking was derived from, always wanting to aim to please my father. Always, on social media, we have this tendency, and I think we do it unknowingly. We live these filtered lives where we only show people the good. We don't show them the dark side of our lives, because we all have it. So,
right.
And beating ourselves up because we don't have these things, these possessions, or we're not going on these excursions, and whatever it may be. So I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. Basically, I was tired of keeping up with the Joneses, Kardashians, whatever. And that was what started my spiritual journey. So when I watched that 2-part miniseries, it talked a lot about synchronicity and how there are no accidents and everything's happening as it should. And that really hit me at a time when I needed to hear that. And so it really made me think about, past synchronous events that have happened throughout my life, and that I actually thought were, wow, I can't believe this happened. Case in point, when I went through my 7-year breakup, I'm crashing on a couch on my mom's 1-bedroom apartment, going from Fort Worth to Dallas, which is about an hour commute. Just thinking, where am I going? What's my plan B in life? And just feeling like a failure. I mean, I was in the market of buying a house, but it didn't change the fact that this relationship ended. I'm now trying to make heads or tails because I had my own business at the time. So it was, I need to find a job. And I was doing it successfully for on my own for over a year. I had the business for 7, but it was more of a side gig. Did it full time once I had saved up about a year's worth of savings and nest egg or so. It's probably about a good 8-9 months worth of income. And then I thought to myself, anytime if I find myself having to touch it, then I know I need to start looking. So I found myself diving into the savings, and not to mention, if I wanted to buy a house, I had to show employment, like actual employment, because if you're self-employed, it's much harder to buy a house. And so there was all these things hitting me at once. And mind you, this before the DUI, I was just kind of telling you about one other synchronized thing that happened to me, which was I had interviewed for a position at Neiman Marcus corporate office some time ago, and I didn't get the job. Twice I didn't get the job. And it had been well over a year. Well, for whatever reason, the guy who chose not to hire me, my resume was sitting on the desk of the new person who was in charge. And I had actually literally prayed to God that, you need to give me some sort of direction. I don't know where to go from here. I'm like, I have no idea. And I'll put in the work, but you just need to guide me, show me something. And that's the first time I had prayed in years. I mean, years. Never really had a faith-based system, but in that moment I felt it, and I just cried and said, I need your guidance, because I don't know what to do anymore. I don't even know where to start looking. And I was waiting at my studio that I was renting in the Deep Ellum area of Dallas. And I was sitting there waiting for an appointment. And while I was there, something compelled me to check an old email. And I checked that old email just out of sheer boredom. And mind you, I interviewed for this job well over a year before getting it. In that inbox, there was an email asking me to come in for an interview.
Wow.
And it was sent within that hour. So
dang,
that was just my total surprise. I said, and I literally prayed the night before, like, just tell me if you're real. Like, I need a sign. I need guidance. And so if that wasn't a red flag, I don't know what is. So there's something out there that's a lot higher than we know. There's something more than just this reality. And what started the podcast was just simply all these events that have happened throughout my life, and knowing that, when I got arrested, I stopped trying to aim to please, because my stepmother, I've forgiven both of them, my father and my stepmother, because my stepmother pretty much wanted my father all to herself. She had a son from a prior marriage, and she wanted it to be all about them. And so I thought to myself, that's his problem, not mine. But if he ever chooses to come back into my life, I mean, I'm here. And
Right.
So we don't have to bring up the past. We can just move forward. But, I allowed, yes, that was the root of my drinking. But I think victimhood is a choice. Actually, I know victimhood is a choice, because I had a decision to make. I could have chose not to drink, no matter even if that was the cause. So I tell people all the time, you are in charge of your own destiny, and how that works is how you react to situations. There's always going to be some troll on the internet. There's always going to be even some troll in the physical sense. So you have a decision to make on how you're going to react to things. And that was the biggest lesson from that. And it was worth every penny. So, and then starting the podcast, it was all about mystic talk, which was anything that fell under the mystic umbrella. So I really had to strategize and think, well, what is it exactly that I want to talk about? Well, I've always believed in UFOs, aliens, for on my podcast about trans channeling, astral projection, and even is going as far as biblical, with the Bible and the Old and New Testament and such. I really do feel that all of it's connected. And so my podcast is really trying to connect the dots. And how does this all connect? Because I don't know if you ever listened to Dolores Cannon.
I haven't, no.
She she passed away some years ago, but she basically said that Earth is a schooling, and we're here to make mistakes. And one of the things that I talk about in my podcast is that in this reality, we say gold, silver, money, land, property are some of the most valued currency there is. But in all, no matter how you see it, the true currency is wisdom. So we're on this plane, this planet to gain wisdom, and that's the ultimate highest currency there is learning our lessons throughout this life. So I am a big believer that we chose our lives. We chose our lives for a lesson to be learned. And a lot of people will say, well, why would I choose this life? But if you truly think about it, if like put aside the fact that you're existing right now, that you're born, and you're looking at all these different lives that are being played out that you get to choose from, but in the end, you're going to come back home. So why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you choose to maybe try and understand what it is to be poor, what it is to live on the street, what it is to be this or that?
It's like reading a book. You know what I mean?
You're going to go home. Yeah.
Right.
It's just like with deja vu. You watch a trailer for a movie and you see it so much that you make a decision to go see that movie. So when you go and see it, there's parts of it you're like, wait, have I seen this? Oh, that was in the trailer. So I feel like we get this snippet before we accept this life and take it on. And I kind of feel that that's where deja vu, or at least part of what deja vu comes from, is we saw a trailer of our life played before us, and there were snippets in there that we recall, we remember. And so anyway, that's how I think deja vu, what deja vu is all about.
Do you think that when we dream, and we happen to see something, so like, say you started a dream journal, right? And you write down your dream of something that happened, and it's like something that's kind of real and that could happen to you, and then later down the line something happens and it's that exact thing and you have that deja vu feeling. Do you think that when you had dreamt it, that's a part of the trailer you saw before you?
Possibly.
Yeah.
I think there's different aspects of deja vu. I don't think it's just the fact that, okay, I saw a trailer of my life, I'm subscribing to this to live out this life. I think that even in dreams, you can see something prior to it happening, much like psychic abilities, ESP.
Right. So I fall under a lot of the same stuff that you had talked about. I mean, you sent me that 2-part series a couple months ago. I watched it. That was very super intriguing. Because I reached out to you about the deja vu stuff, and that's when you sent it to me. And so I started my podcast amidst of this like spiritual journey that I've been on, and I started I kind of started it a little bit before my breakup, but the breakup, like, it broke me like entirely, and I felt so lost, and it was really hard. And then I was also dealing with emotions from my mother, and I was going to therapy at the time trying to figure out like what the fuck is wrong with me. Why am I 30 years old with nothing to show for it other than, I had kids, which, I mean, those are probably the two best things that have ever happened to me. are my
Mhm.
children. And you know, and I've had I was living in my mother's basement. My mom was fighting with me every day, almost, it seemed like, over just like little stuff. She actually, every time she had something to say, was always putting me down and, you know, stuff like that. And then I was
Sounds like
just
my
like, yeah. And I was just like, it brought me right back to when I was a child, like my whole childhood. My mother was my first bully in my life. And I've experienced a few bullies throughout my life for stupid stuff. Like I've been bullied for my nose being big, you know, and I actually got bullied by detectives one time because my nose was big. So, um, and I was 16 and they were questioning me about something that I had no knowledge of, but they were questioning me without um, lawyers or a guardian present and stuff like that. But regardless, it was life has been it's been interesting in the past couple of years. This journey of so I've started meditating. You know, I started searching for God, and I started, you know, asking questions and what, like, within myself. And then all of a sudden, I bought this house. Bought a brand new car. Me and my kids went on a road trip to Arizona, and it was like my first ever like real vacation. And just
mm,
like things just started falling in line, and then I started this podcast. So, and it's been it's been pretty rewarding. Everybody that I've encountered, everybody that I've had on, I've basically become friends with, you know what I mean? And
yeah,
I think that's the most special thing to me, is the connection with people from all over the place. I mean, Tommy from the UK, you were down in Texas. I've made so many friends from Florida. It's not even funny. I kind of want to move there just because of how many people I've connected with
yeah,
from Florida already. And then there's Ron in Indiana, people in Canada. It's special. It's been extremely rewarding, and
yeah.
I'm super happy about it. So um
And I think in this life too, we connect with people, even if it's for a season. There was a reason for that interaction, and I tell people all the time too that, like, just like we're recording right now, and we've recorded prior to this too, there were lessons and reasons for all of that to take place. And I always tell people, when something bad happens to you, take a minute before reacting. And I'm not always successful with this by any means. I mean, I literally have to put myself in check too.
mhm,
Um, Rather it be I'm running late for work or what have you. But you have to think about too, what's the lesson to be had there? Sometimes I get overwhelmed with just stuff in the house. Taking out the dogs. There's dishes in the sink. There's this and that. And then I thought to myself, well, maybe what the lesson is, maybe I need to downsize in order to minimize some of my stress. What are
mm,
some of the things that I can minimize? And it was kind of like going through that spiritual journey, that really the only person I need to please is myself. And if you're lucky enough, you'll find people, when you truly accept yourself, love yourself, become your own best friend. It's funny how things just start kind of happening for you. And then, yeah, for a while, it gets kind of stagnant. Like, because I remember when I just kind of just let go, it's kind of like that saying, let go and let God. Um, I never really understood what that meant until I
mhm,
just kind of let go. I said, screw it. I mean, I'm here right now. I'm fine. I've gotten through some shit that's a lot harder than this. It's
mhm.
fine. And when I had that attitude, I felt like I put out this vibration out into the universe, where I started attracting all the right people, even if it was just for a moment in passing.
Yep.
Um, and it's weird too, days that you feel good about yourself, no one compliments you, but then there's days where you're just, screw it. And then someone said, hey, you look nice today. And you're like, oh, really? I thought I looked like shit, but thank you. And it's weird how that works.
Yeah.
You just kind of like, screw it. I'll just whatever. So I think you have to, one, be your own best friend. You can't really, and I love that about getting older too, because when you get older, you don't have anything to prove anymore. Not that you did before, but I think you start develop an understanding on, okay, life just got a little bit easier. And just like I've always quoted this, what the Dalai Lama said was, life isn't complicated. We as humans make it complex.
Yes.
It's, when you think about it, really life is not complicated. You know, if I fall behind on a credit card, screw it. I mean, I don't want to, but
Yeah.
but I'm just saying it is what it is. You do the best you can. Why sweat it?
Right.
I'm getting some things paid off, and I'm like, "Who? Never again." Once I'm done, I'm no more. So,
Right.
but I
It's
think just being your own best friend first and foremost, accepting yourself, being proud of yourself. I'm a big runner. And so there's a lake called White Rock Lake in Dallas, and I run it, and it's a little over 9 miles. And I remember I hadn't ran in like some months, but I managed to pull through about 6. So
wow.
I walked the rest of the way, and I kept beating myself up that I couldn't just get back into it. And I said, screw it, you ran 6 miles. Some people can't even run one,
Mm,
so be proud of yourself. And that was for me.
yep.
I even like going out to eat by myself. I like going to the diner.
Oh
Going
my
to the
God,
diner.
I just started doing that and I love it. I
Yes.
absolutely love going out to eat by myself.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. I've been to the movies by myself. I've gone out to eat by myself, and that was my day. I didn't.
Mhm.
Sometimes you bring someone along, it's like, shoot, I feel like I gotta pay for them.
Now I have to find something to talk about
uh,
until we get the food, you know. But yeah, when you go back to the you be your own best friend, I had a conversation with a coworker, and we were talking. He's like, he just bought himself one of those trikes that, but it's the 2 wheels on the front, not the 2 wheels in the back. So he's got
mhm.
the 3 wheels, and he's like, I didn't ask my wife's permission and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, it's okay to be selfish sometimes. You got to take
Yeah.
care, you got to be able to do things on your own for yourself. You can't always be like, I mean, I get, like, when you're married, you're not technically asking for permission. You're just basically bouncing the idea off. Like, do you think this is possible? This is what I want to do. Do you think this is possible? Like, I get having that conversation before, you make a purchase like that or something. But, he was like, I felt like, I could do it, and I did it. And if she might not be happy with it, but, I was like, dude, you got to be, every once in a while, it's okay to be selfish. And then there was happened to be another coworker that was sitting in the room with us while we were having this conversation, and she was a woman, and she goes, "Is this why you're not married anymore?" And I was like, "What?" I was like, if you have the right person, it doesn't matter. Like, you should be able, like, each should be able to do your own thing here and there. You know what
I
I
think
mean?
I think, you hear people say, don't be selfish, or it's okay to be selfish. Really, what it is just about balance,
Mm-hmm.
knowing when, there's a time and place to be selfish, and there's a time and a place to be selfless. And my partner, I mean, I call him the car whisperer, because he can hear something in a vehicle and know instantly what needs to be fixed on it, or what it
Wow.
possibly could be. And so he's always going out fixing someone's vehicle, and he'll brag and say that would have been a $5,000 job right there, and we managed to do it for a couple $100. And I said, yeah, but how much did you walk away with? Your service shouldn't be free, you should charge for that.
Right.
And he was kind of down on his luck some years back, and he goes, every time, I'm always helping somebody, and the time that I need help, no one's there to help me. And I said, well, that's your own fault, because when you do something for someone else, you do it without the intent of being paid back.
Yep.
It's out of the goodness of your heart. I was like, you might need to be a little more selfish and start paying for your services, because you're using up your gas, you're using up your time. Um, you know, um, there's just a time and a place, and as much knowledge as you have, charge for that. If you're telling them it's a $5,000 job, make $1,000 off of it, you know?
Yep. Yep. I 100% agree with that. Also have a friend who is a lot like that. And he actually says the same thing. And I was like, you know what? I was like, you keep telling me that nobody is there for you when you need help, but I was like, are you even reaching out? I was like, because my phone's silent from you. Whatever you talk about all these times that you need help, I was like, I haven't heard anything about these times that you've needed help.
Yeah.
So, so he's he's always been like the kind of person that was like, I have my own back, I've known him since we were children,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? And he's always been that kind of person where if he needs something that needs to be taken care of, like he's gonna handle it, he's gonna, pick his head up, put his chest out and take care
Mhm.
of it, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, I was just like, dude, if you need help, you need to ask. I was like, that's the
Yeah.
only way you're gonna get it. I was like, no, I was like, I haven't known that you've needed any of this help. So, recently he just started asking for help. Like, he needed to move his duck house, and they decided to make their duck house out of one of those like bus stop huts
Yeah.
that
Okay.
children stand in to, so
Oh, yeah.
it's like 8 feet tall or whatever and 6 feet wide, and we're trying to move this by hand. We ended up getting a bunch of logs and putting logs down in front of it. We lifted it up, put it on the logs, and we rolled it like a good 50 yards across his yard to somewhere where his fiance wanted it. But yeah, it's just like talking to anybody about stuff like this. If you need help, you need to ask. If you're not asking for help, you're not going to get it. and
Yeah.
it's and it's just like with prayer and God. If you're not asking, he's not going to help. So
No. And
but
and even if he doesn't answer, I mean, there's a reason for that, you know.
yeah, uh I do believe that we are each a universe expressing itself as a human being for a while. Like, I do believe a lot of the things that you said. I think we know that we are going home, so we choose to live this life. So I had past life regression done, and she said that my first life I was supposed to um, learn how to be patient and deal with anger. And it felt like she said that it felt like I was very angry and I was supposed to learn how to control it and that and all that. And as we were talking, I spent a large chunk of my life just being angry all the fucking time, like just all the time. It didn't matter. It could have been the littlest thing, and I was just a straight flame. And I do believe that since this spiritual journey has started, I do believe I find myself being a whole lot more patient,
Mhm.
less angry. I mean, obviously, I'm a human being. I'm gonna experience anger. It's just sometimes it's gonna be in a different way, and sometimes, I'm still learning how to cope with it. So every once in a while, it's gonna be a little more off the top than it should be. But you know, uh, just like you said, with the the best the currency is wisdom, and as I think a lot of people are missing that today, and I don't think people are trying to obtain that these days.
Oh, I don't, especially young people too. I mean, and I blame a lot of that too on technology,
Oh
where
yes.
there's a lot of good with technology, but also comes the bad with the territory. And I think that all these things you're hearing now about mental health, um, it's like I'm very old school, so like my grandpa, my parents, I'm like, mental health. I'm like, well, just shut it off, just shut it off. I mean, get off of Facebook,
Mm-hmm.
get off of also like I challenge anybody for at least a week. Don't watch the news, don't go on any kind of social media platform, YouTube, any of it for at least a week. And just see how much better you feel. And being able to just simply put the phone down. You always hear of and I think it's a good thing. I mean, regardless if you're Catholic or not, doesn't matter, but to give up something for an entire month, I would challenge anybody, do that with your phones. Or I get that people need to use their phones for certain things, but just stay off of social media. I mean, whenever I had eventually came back to social media, which was during the pandemic, the lockdown, I got back on Facebook, but then of course the whole BLM George Floyd riot was happening, and
Yep.
it got so many people saying, white people, you're the problem, and I'm like, okay, I'm deleting this. And so it was just too much. I can only take so much as a human being. And it always feels like everybody's just trying to one up the other individual. If
Oh
you
my
like,
God, yeah.
say you leave a comment about something and then someone decides to chime in and say, well, it's actually like, what do you care? Like, just, but yeah, you know what? I probably should have just never commented altogether. There are times when I want to comment on something and I'm like, no, because you know what that's going to attract. Some know-it-all is going to get on here and try to say, well, Bobby. I'm like, not trying to hear any of that, just
Yeah.
so if you don't want the comments, just don't leave one. And then, sometimes I'll read them and I just kind of laugh. I think, why? Like, why are you don't even know this person? Why even comment?
Mhm.
Like, what's the point? And I used to be that person that would, comment, and I'm like, but what's the point? I'm not making any kind of headway or um, changing their point of view. And I think that one of the biggest issues people have in this day and age are their egos.
Yes.
And, putting that in check and realizing that, much like my walk away video, I think people don't want to accept the fact that, with this woke ideology that's being, that's being held on this pedestal by the Democratic Party, I think a lot of people don't want to accept the fact that they've been wronged, because that would mean that they are wrong. And so they can't simply own up and say, whereas I was an extreme liberal, but I mean, not to the degree of what these liberals are today. And
Yeah.
so when I started seeing all the rioting, this questioning, what is a woman, non-binary indoctrination stuff being taught in our ISDs and universities.
Yeah.
I was like, has the whole world gone mad? And so, I just decided I'm just going to live in my own little bubble, because I have no control of what's going on out there, nor do I need to get involved. But if there's one thing I can do, is just share my words of wisdom. My best friend, she still very much identifies as a liberal socialist, and I love her. She's my best friend, and I've accepted that about her, even though, I think she's wrong. And in my head, I'm thinking, idiot, but I don't say that,
Right.
but, but people need to come around in their own time. And I think being the bigger person, not that you need to advertise like, oh, I'm being the bigger person. You're being the bigger person in a sense of, just show them this unconditional love. Eventually they will come around. It may not happen overnight. It may not happen in a week, a month, a year, but I've just learned that I will never get into political conversations with her. Now, she is on my podcast for a few of the UFO shows, and I see where she kind of turns it, and I try to steer it back this direction, like, okay, let's not add this toxic whatever to this podcast. I just no, like, just
Yeah.
let's steer it back on course. But I think people's egos are the biggest problem. They need to put them in check and realize that you're not right about everything, and it's okay. Like
Yeah.
I've been wrong about most likely everything. I mean, as far as when I stood
Mm-hmm.
on the left, and
Yeah.
there were reasons I stood on the left, and then I realized that that wasn't the party that had my best interests. And if you're someone that still stands on the left, then that's your prerogative. I'm not going to sit and argue or fight with you on it. And it's just much like when you would hear, and I talked about this in my walk away video, all the white people, you're the problem. Um, nobody wants to be called ignorant. No one wants to be called a racist. So, these were a bunch of Black people that I went to school with that were very well educated. Their parents were doctors, lawyers, bankers, even.
Mm-hmm.
Big, beautiful homes, nice cars, vehicles, things, stuff, very well accomplished. And here I was, with my mother living in an apartment. And, these were people that I looked up to. I mean, some of them, yes, were Republican, but some of them were liberal leaning Democrats.
Yep.
And so when this whole George Floyd thing happened, you're getting hit on social media with white people, your silence speaks volumes. And I donated to BLM. And BLM just here recently has been exposed thanks to Candace Owens.
Yes.
And so, but here I was thinking, well, maybe it's something I don't understand. You know what I mean? Like, and I was trying to logistically make it make sense because I supported these people that are saying that they're victims, which I couldn't see the victimhood or why they were oppressed.
Mm-hmm.
You're only oppressed if you think you're oppressed. But then again, the people that you're saying that are the oppressors, well, they're actually the people that you're standing with, which are the liberal Democrats. I mean, the parties never flip. They want you to think that they flipped. They never flip.
Mm-hmm.
So it's we've been bamboozled for a long time. People will say that the Democratic Party has been hijacked. It hasn't been hijacked. It's always been this way. They just change some words and verbiage around, and they make you think that they have your best interests. And much like this gender ideology that's going on, I mean, to stand with a party that is literally questioning what a woman is and telling you all to believe that gender is a construct, that you can be whatever you want, whatever you feel, and that somehow this has become a civil rights thing. But really what this quote unquote civil rights thing is nothing more than a money-making scheme. And all the people that are behind it, all the people that are behind it are like big tech, big pharma, big finance. And it all started with two individuals, William Sims Bainbridge.
Yep.
And then also Martine Rothblatt, who actually was born biologically a male, now a trans, wealthy too, has a net worth. I think it was like 200 million. I think what's his name, Bainbridge, was about 7 or 10 million of a net worth.
Yeah.
But very influential people. They have their hands in all these nonprofits that actually go and fund our ISD, our public school systems, and our universities. And so they take these fundings on a contingent that you will adopt these behaviors, these civil rights. And it's not a civil right, meaning the non-binary, the fact that gender is a construct. Even in the Cambridge Dictionary, they've already gotten rid of the word woman. So
did they really?
They did. In the Cambridge Dictionary, got rid of the word woman.
Wow,
that's
insane.
And then I went to go look it up, and I was like, wow, this shit is crazy.
It's all crazy.
It's all for profit. It's all about, because we're getting these donations into our public school systems, there's an oath that they take to say, hey, You need to ask people what are their preferred pronouns. You need to teach about, gay ethology, gay rights, and kids have no reason or business to be learning any of this. I mean, that's where all the drag queen story hour and school libraries got started. And as a gay man, I would never send my child or take my child to a drag queen story hour. That would be like saying, let's have a Chippendales story hour, like get some male stripper in there reading to us, or some prostitute story hour. I mean, that's not okay.
I don't really
Why
understand the
should
purpose. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand why aren't the teachers just reading the book? Why
yeah
are we bringing in somebody, regardless, doesn't matter what they dress up as or anything? Why does somebody else need to come in to read to the kids at
it's
all?
all part of the grooming, and that's much like what you see in Canada now, where 6-year-olds are getting sex changes, and if
That
the
bothers me.
parents, and here's the thing, it's secretive too, so it's very important that you know that parents pay attention to what their kids are doing in school and actually ask probing questions, because a lot of this is being hidden from the parents. So it's not really the parents' fault. It's that you trust your school system, to give your children a proper education so they will, be functioning, civilians once they get out, regular, successful working people,
Yeah.
functioning adults. And what they're doing is, in this grooming process, especially with Bainbridge and Rothblatt, they are transhumanist. So they believe that basically the body, there's not really any sense of age or sense of gender. That they're all about this cyberspace thing. They're sick individuals, and their money, along with like Land Illegal, PFLAG, and those are just to name a couple. Even the Civil Rights Act campaign is also helping with this indoctrination process. So basically, what they're doing is, like I mentioned earlier, big tech, big pharma, big finance. It's all their bases are covered. So what they're trying to do with these kids is, lead them to believe that they want to be of the opposite sex. And the parents cannot give consent because they have their bases covered, especially like in Canada with these non-governed, non-profit organizations that are literally giving the funding, not government. These nonprofits, which are under, these sick individuals. What they're trying to do is it's just a money-making thing for them to get these kids to subscribe to, and what they want to do is sterilize them, because the next wave is going to be is sterilization, because once you go through these puberty blockers, these cross-sex hormones, it's bad for your bones, especially when you're starting them pre-puberty.
Yes.
When you're going through this, so you're going to be sterile. You're not going to have kids. I mean, the minute you pop one of them pills, there's a chance that you may never conceive children if you ever decide that you want to go back. But they will rest assure you that you can it's reversible. No, you can't. That needs to be understood. And they're not telling kids this. And a lot of times when you're signing paperwork to do this, you're not reading everything that's all the text that's within these documents. You're basically signing away your life. And a lot of parents think that their kids are going to school and being taught the 3 R's, but they're actually being indoctrinated with all this pride stuff, this drag queen story hour. They're learning about trans. They're learning about gay sex as young as 6th grade, 4th grade even. And basically what they want to eventually do is, once they sterilize everyone, that no one can actually have a child, they're creating artificial wombs. So now you can pay to have a kid, they're like this incubator system of a thing. These are dehumanizing people that I don't know what's wrong with them, but these elitists are sick.
Yes.
And there was one on my notes too. I had mentioned, I mean, just the fact, I mean, well, like if you think about the Olympics, we're now having trans people. Well, not even trans. It's a biological man. Just the fact that he says, I'm a woman, he can compete on the swim team, the Leah Thomas.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And we're praising this individual. And people are too scared to say anything, and so they go along with it. But the dangerous part of going along with it, because no one wants to be called that they're hateful, they're giving hate speech. Everyone wants to treat everyone with respect, but we got to be realistic here. This is nothing more than a money-making profit scheme. That's all this is.
It really
is. If you just follow the money, if you follow the money, you will know that these civil rights laws are literally being passed because politicians are getting paid under the table. If you look at Kamala Harris, she uses, hi, I'm Kamala Harris. My pronouns are she, her. I mean, you're basically subscribing to this ideology, this false ideology. And the fact that we live in 2023, we can't even identify. I mean, no matter what you say, the whole thing is all about, if you say or even question, because let's say you're going in it with an open mind that you want to understand, you can't question anything because even if you catch them in something contradictory, oh well, you're transphobic or you're homophobic. I mean, everything goes back to that because they can't give you an answer.
Right. Exactly.
With all these contradictions, they can't give you an answer, so they always hit you with the, oh, you're transphobic, oh, you're homophobic,
Yeah.
And they can call me whatever they want. You can call me racist, you can call me transphobe, homophobe. The fact of the matter is we need to stop being scared, because you can call me anything you want all day long, but as long as I know myself, that's all that matters. So anybody can call me whatever they want under the sun, but it's important that people get loud, just as loud as this small little group is, that bark the loudest. Well, this is a small percentage of people that are subscribing to this ideology. And even if things were to go back to normal tomorrow, I think the scary part of it all is all the damage, collateral damage that's been done to these children. What is, like, even if everything were to turn back to normal tomorrow, all this pumped up false ideology, what do these people look like in the next 10 to 15 years when they're out, passing laws and society? What does our society look like? It does go back to normal, tomorrow. What does that look like? I mean, it's scary.
It is scary. And there's I feel like this whole trans movement thing, they're trying to tell you that they're oppressed. Like I've never heard anything, or I mean, this is coming from, the corner of the US. I'm up here in Maine, I don't experience like the entire world all at once. So, but I mean, I've never had a problem with anybody being trans. You want to transition into being a woman, you want to transition into being a man. If that's what is going to make you happy, go for it. My problem is the children, just like any other person, you know what I mean? And I do feel like with all this AI shit that they're pushing like this transhumanism, and I feel like if you're into transhumanism, you either did something fucked up and you're afraid to be judged at the end. So you're trying to prolong life as much as possible. So you're going to try and put your consciousness into something that isn't human, so that you don't have to stand at the end of the day and be judged, and then possibly go somewhere where you are going to have to pay for those things, or you're atheist and you don't believe in anything after life. You know what I mean? That's what I feel like somebody who's who's into transhumanism. Now with like the trans stuff, the like transgender stuff, why are you want to present yourself as the opposite gender that you biologically are? So why would you go by trans? Wouldn't you just call yourself a woman or a man?
Well, no, because even Blair White, because I do support trans people. Um, there's a trans woman, Blair White.
Yeah, I love her.
Yeah, she said it best with Michael Knowles. She said, in order to get respect, you have to give it, and
Yes.
that's what she'll tell you all day long. And she says that when she was in this debate, and it was a civil debate between her and Michael Knowles. I'm sorry, my camera cut off.
Uh-oh.
There was a. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. It looks like you're losing service.
Oh, my battery went to 20%, so I'm going to plug my phone in.
I can still see you though.
Okay. But Blair White said it best. She basically said that uh, with Michael Knowles, she said, I simply want to, blend in with society. So I'm not really necessarily, as, rightfully so,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a biological male, but let's say we go out to a restaurant and I get there before you and you see me, you tell the hostess, oh, I'm with her. You know what I mean? It's just a matter of just blending into society as opposed to trying to shove this narrative, down everyone's throat. And, much like with the Pride Parade, I don't support it. I've never supported it because
It's very
I think it
sexual.
makes a mockery of gay people. It's very sexualized, and I feel that we could have had marriage equality passed back in the 90s had they just put some clothes on.
Yeah,
You know,
I agree with that.
I mean, you don't go to an interview with you don't go to an interview wearing a t-shirt and sweats and expect to demand to get the job. You look the part, on your A game. So I feel a little more dignified. And, even some of the posters that are promoting Pride, which is, literally day after tomorrow, June.
Yeah.
And um, the poster children, I call them, that they're showcasing, have like the pink mohawk, and it's a male wearing beads but has a full-fledged beard with painted nails and fishnets, and that's not me. That's not representing me in any sort of way. And they're just making a mockery. They're literally adding to the stereotype, but yet they'll tell you all day long, "I want respect." Looking
Mm-hmm.
like that. That's something within your control. I mean, you know, we live in a society where, and I'm not going to lie, I mean, am I going to trust somebody with multicolored hair and, a tackle box worth of piercings on their face to do my taxes? No. Like, I mean, there's a way you present yourself in society. That's just the way it is. I mean, call me conservative. And I do believe that I'm more on the conservative side of things,
Yeah.
as opposed to, and I think I've always been that way, because even as when I identified as a liberal, I still didn't support the Pride Parade. And I would tell people all day long why I didn't support it. And they actually would agree with me. But it wasn't until up until now, this ideology where you can't even disagree. You can't even disagree anymore.
Yeah. And the thing that I've been saying is there's no there's nobody has the same life experience. So why do you expect everybody to have the same opinion, the same view, the same belief in, certain things? Like So the America was founded. The reason why they even wanted to make this a country and separate from Great Britain was for freedom of religion. You can literally drive down the street and see 10 different churches of 10 different faiths. You can see, a mosque, a Jew, or you can see what is it? Is it a mosque that's Jewish?
Mosque.
Okay.
The temple.
Yeah. And you can see a Muslim place. I don't I can't remember what they call that. They have a certain name for that. You see a Christian church, see a Catholic church, you see a Baptist church, all on the same road. You know what I mean? So like this place is this country is one of the most diverse.
And the beauty of this country too, that I neglected to ever realize while I was a liberal, is the fact that, I used to think, well, we need government help. No, we don't. We don't need any kind of government assistance. We just need government to stay out of our lives, stay out of our business. That is stuff up by your bootstraps and paving your own way. Because even though, and I don't think a lot of people realize this, and just like I said, I was one of them at one time too, is that socialism looks good on paper, but anyone that's at a hierarchy that's going to say, I promise you X, Y, and Z will never deliver. They will never deliver.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a complete and utter farce. I mean, it's just like with South Korea too. I forget the lady's name, but she escaped, and she's basically telling Americans, I don't understand why you guys are acting this way, demanding that you become a socialist country. She goes, I left a socialist country to come here. Like, we're not listening to these people who came from socialist societies. What makes you think it's going to be any different over here if we implement socialism? It's not, because you're now giving government power.
Right.
You're now giving them power. And now we have this whole digital currency thing. I mean, it's just another way to control us.
Right. And this country is supposed to be a constitutional republic, not a democracy. We're not supposed to be operating under a two-party system. So the fact that we are is kind of crazy to me, because I believe George Washington, when they started this when they implemented the Constitution and they did they set up the government, George Washington was like adamant that this be a constitutional republic. And then as soon as he died, they were like two parties. So I
mean, are there things that suck here? Yeah, but that's with any country. It's not perfect.
Exactly.
And I do think one thing that would help this country, I do think we should get rid of parties. I think we should get rid of the Democrat and Republican Party and just base everything on merit, because I think people vote out of emotion. People vote because there's a label behind it. Just like my friend, she said she'll vote Democrat all day long.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that? So, do you not hear the ignorance of what you're saying?
Yeah.
To say that you will vote Democrat all day long, you're saying no matter what they say, I will vote Democrat all day long.
Right. That is wild. Like, I consider myself conservative as well, but I don't always. So I this is what I say. I'm conservative, not Republican, because I don't support every Republican. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of things that might help too is, number one, put a fucking age limit on these people with the seats. I mean, Nancy Pelosi's fucking 83 years old. She is well over retirement age. And why are all these people their net worth freaking over $50 million?
Still in office.
Exactly. Their wealth becomes astronomically more than when they started. You know what I mean? So they should have a limit of how much they can make. They should make. They should be able to. They should only be making money to be comfortable in all that stuff. Like if you want to be in the government, that's 100% fine, but you shouldn't be gaining an astronomical amount of wealth from just signing documents all day and implemented laws. You know what I mean? Like I do think they should get paid decently. I just don't think they should become a part of the 1% by doing it.
No, absolutely not.
And they so they and the thing is too is that they start off with all these like amazing things to say. They get voted in, and then they don't do the amazing things that they said they were going to do. And I get it that they can't always get implement everything that they said, because there's other, politicians and whatnot blocking them and doing, because they want opposite things, so it's not always easy. But at the end of the day, these people are supposed to be working for us, not for themselves.
Exactly. And
So
that's all they've been doing is simply profiteering.
yes, yep. And they they get paid by the lobbyists, and they're backed by big pharma, and it's become a mess. And one of the things that I liked about Trump is that he said that he was gonna, drain the swamp, and that never happened. So I'm a little upset about that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But again, the minute he got into office, they were working tirelessly to get him out. And
And I believe a lot of what he said. It's like, it's not about me, because if they can do this to me, they can definitely do this to you guys.
mm-hmm. Yeah, and that they're bringing up charges currently on Hunter Biden, and they're saying that Joe Biden is also in on it. Like I can't remember exactly what they were saying. They had a
With
press
Zelensky.
conference for this and everything, about how they the Bidens have been profiting, like they have a foreign bank, that they are a bank account that they have been pouring money into, like a business, but they're not a business. That's just their bank account, but it's been making money like it's a business, which is odd.
Yeah. And that's just like with, because they're in bed with Zelensky.
Yes.
And that's the only reason why we're in Ukraine to begin with.
Yeah.
It's all about money. It's a rich man's war. I mean, most of the time we go to war, we're fighting a rich man's war. I mean, even going back to, you said, I don't always agree with every Republican, and, one being George W. I mean, there's a lot of evidence pointing to the fact that he had some, I'm not going to say fully responsible, but had his hand in the fact that 9/11 even happened.
Yes.
And
he was
I don't
into
have
little
any kind of
girls.
concrete. I'm not saying he directly, but I didn't know that.
Yeah,
But it didn't surprise me.
He was tight with
So,
Epstein, so but they all were.
Well, yeah, they all were. And it's funny because even the Clintons, I have an episode coming up, the Clinton body count, and it just amazes me is that there's proof of the drug smuggling of cocaine being brought into Mena Airport when he was governor of Arkansas. He smuggled in a lot of cocaine. He had a cocaine addiction. He even has, there's two document records of him ODing on cocaine when he had to be rushed to the hospital while he was governor of
I didn't
Arkansas.
know that.
And nobody seems to blink an eye. Yeah, nobody says anything about it. And yet he's been proven to be a rapist. I mean, they paid someone, this is before Monica Lewinsky, this is before Paula Jones. There was, I don't remember her name. She even wrote a book here recently. But for a long time, she stayed silent. And what's funny is, even though Bill raped her, she said she was more scared of Hillary than Bill.
That does not surprise me
So I
one
thought,
bit.
yeah. And, you know, if you look at the body count, all of them, or not all of them, but the majority of them had ties with the whole Nicaragua cocaine smuggling that was that came in through Mena Airport, and all the illegal weapons. You know, because this was going all the way back to the 70s, which is why, you know, cocaine became such a big a popular drug among urban communities in the Los Angeles area,
Yeah.
and also in Manhattan, and predominantly in the Harlem area. So a lot of that was due to the smuggling of cocaine through Bill Clinton's, you know, before he was president, when he was governor of Arkansas.
Right. And that and the Vietnam War, they were bringing heroin over. That's that it said that is the reason that we were in Vietnam to begin with, was for the opium.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't looked much too far into that, but yeah, I heard something about that.
Yeah. I guess Geraldo. I don't know if I'm saying that. I think I tried to say his name. The guy with the big mustache there, the news reporter.
Geraldo Herrera.
Yeah. Yeah. And he was over there
Rivera.
Yes. Yeah. He was over there in Vietnam, and he's asking these soldiers like what they're doing, and he's like, "We're guarding these opium fields because this is how these people make money. Why are you guarding their fields though?" Like, and it's from the rebellion or whatever they were whatever the people they were fighting. And and he's in the middle of talking to them, and in the middle of the interview, you can see it on his face. He's just like, "What the fuck is going on? Like, this is the weirdest fucking thing." Like, he's just like, he had this moment of realization, and he just like was like, "Oh shit." So I
And
think
I tell everybody, I said, if for whatever reason Biden gets elected for another term, I don't care what anyone says, that election was rigged. If that happens, it's rigged. There's just no way.
there's
no way.
there's evidence that the majority of elections are rigged. I mean, it was rigged for Trump. It was rigged for, you know, and it's rigged by politicians and lobbyists for their agenda, by the elites. It's what they want at that particular moment in time. So, and and it's just like, you go to Kamala Harris. How did she become VP? She dropped out of the run for VP. She had the lowest rating for VP, and she still got it. That is just they're literally putting it in your face that they are gonna do what the fuck they want to do, whether you vote for it or not.
And they're trying to depopulate us slowly but surely. I mean, look at COVID. Even what I talked about earlier, the sterilization of this new generation coming up. And, you know, because if you have lower numbers of population, you can control them better. So I do believe I have a kickoff episode coming up. I talk a little bit about it on Friday, because the actual episode airs or gets posted Saturday, June 3rd. But June 2nd, we have the one about Project Bluebeam. I don't know if you heard about that. It was the CIA. I forget his name. He's a CIA whistleblower. He worked for the CIA, and he basically had a book all about COVID before COVID was even, you know, a thing. Predicted that precise time. So, I mean, it shows that he knew what he was talking about. There's also he had mentioned in 2029, there'll be, if not sooner, these holographic UFOs in the sky. And in between these holograms will be flyer fighter jets that will literally be shooting at just regular civilians and blowing up buildings. And basically, what they're trying to do is to get everyone to comply with order, with New World Order.
Exactly.
And, I know a lot of this to your listeners may sound so far-fetched, but just think about all the bullshit. Sorry, my camera went out. I have 10% battery life, and I don't even know why my phone is not charging, but it's not.
Oh,
So,
no.
but I'll just slowly but surely wrap this up.
Yep.
I think that with everything that has gone on, when we returned back to work from COVID, I remember hearing about that this was to isolate us, and I was just like, just some of their ideology. What is a woman? Having the erasing women from the dictionary now? I mean, it doesn't seem so far-fetched if you consider all that's going on now in today's society. I mean, just how dysfunctional it really is.
Right. It I do believe that they are going to implement otherworldly threat to implement the New World Order, the one world government. I definitely believe that for sure. And with that, you can get into the flat Earth theory. I'm definitely gonna watch that thing that you sent. I know it's 5 hours and it's probably gonna take me a few days. I just haven't
It took me a few
gotten
days
into it.
too.
But the flat Earth theory is so intriguing to me. I don't know if I believe it, if I'm behind it or not, but I mean, it's interesting. I believe that they're lying to us. I believe that we are more powerful than they want us to believe, and they are trying to keep us from ascending, essentially. So, how's your battery?
I'm trying, but it may be a no-go. I think I need to take my phone in for service because the power jack is just not.
All right. Well, if you want, we can adjourn for now, and we can either get another hour in another time, or I think we covered about an hour and a couple minutes. So,
Okay. We can definitely re-adjourn if you like.
yeah, we can come back together at another time and combine both sessions into one episode for 2 hours. So,
Okay.
So I'll just hit stop recording now. Are you interested in t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, tumblers, trucker hats, wall art, and tote bags with unique designs that are AI and paranormal inspired? Bro, the fuck I am. Well, check out deeperdown.store. That's .store for all you slow people out there. I mean, I'm one of them. So I get confused when it's not a .com too. So, I mean, no bias, but, sometimes shit happens. So I got to remind you that it's .store. Deeper Down is a merch store. It is for 3 different Instagram accounts, which is __ down the rabbit hole __ I believe it's 2 underscores. Also Omega Vision AI and Chuck's _thoughts. They are all run by my good friend David, and I definitely think you should check it out and check out his merch store here. I actually have a hoodie headed out my way. If I forgot to mention, they do have long sleeves as well. So for those who are in colder climates like myself out here the fuck in Maine, these designs are dope as fuck. I mean, you just go to the website and you'll see for yourself. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory just looking at it. So please help support our paranormal community. And if you use my code, you get not 5, not 10, not even 15. You get 18% off of your purchase. Type the coupon code Kevin's Weird 18. That's Kevin's Weird 18. That's my name. I'm weird. I'm weird as fuck. So, go to www.deeperdown.store or the Etsy, which is etsy.com/shop/deeperdown, and use my code upon checkout. Come get weird, come stay weird, and have a blessed motherfucking day. All right. So before we were rudely interrupted by technology, we were just about to touch on some of the flat Earth theory, which is a theory that I find most intriguing. Like I said, I've said numerous times, I'm not 100% married to it, but I am kind of sort of, just because of there's so much evidence, and it's super interesting. So Bobby actually sent me a link to a 5-hour documentary, which I have not been able to find the time to dive into. So probably what I'm gonna have to do um, is take some incremented time and whatnot to get into it. So, Bobby, what are you thinking about the flat Earth stuff?
When I first heard it, I was like, I didn't really think, I didn't think too much into it. Now, I mean, I am open-minded in the sense that if you can, you know, I'm not one of those that if I think I'm right, I'm going to sit there and let my ego take over and be like, oh, you're wrong, you're wrong. But if you can legitimately present some circumstantial, some kind of evidence, then, I might tinker with it. And so it was actually because I remember the first time I heard it, I'm like, oh my God, something else. What
Yeah.
else? And so um, surprisingly enough, some people that are friends of mine fall into that whole flat earth theory. And I was like, oh, not you guys too. But I was like, but present your case. So they did, and honestly, I'm kind of like you though. I mean, I could probably be persuaded if given some realistic evidence.
Yeah.
I mean, even if the evidence isn't, I don't know, but I did watch a documentary on Netflix on flat Earth. I'm not really sure what the name of it is, but it's one of the most popular ones on Netflix, and I watched that, and they actually, uh, I think the people on it were just a little out there, but they did present some I don't know if I would say documented, but some good ideas and theories, basically proving their case. But that 5-hour documentary, I took some notes from that, and certain things I never really thought about. So what they're basically saying is it's flat. We live on a flat Earth, and here was one of my biggest debates on it. If back during Christopher Columbus days, if we thought the world was flat then, I mean, what would be the political gain to hide that from us and tell us later that the world is round? And I thought about it. I was like, I got to figure that part out, because why would you go back if we already thought the world was flat at one time, only to be told it's round? So I kind of thought about that a little bit. And I thought to myself, well, as human beings, we naturally like to go and explore and discover new things, and I think with the advancement of technology, it would allow us to seek the end of the Earth if it was indeed flat.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see people wanting to go, and there's the alleged ice wall that holds everything in. So I think with the advancement of technology, it would kind of pique our curiosity to want to go to the ends of the earth and see what's beyond the ice wall. And I've heard many theories about, I'm sure you've heard Hollow Earth, and you've heard uh, the inner Earthling people. That was supposedly in Admiral Byrd's diaries that they found, where he had gone beyond the ice wall, and he all of a sudden didn't have control over his airplane, and so it basically elevated over the ice wall and down to, like, I guess the Earth's I guess the Earth's core at the bottom, and it was this beautiful skyscraper city that was made of crystals, uh, and it's been a while since I've seen that. That one was on YouTube, but it was very telling. And supposedly, allegedly, these are in Admiral Byrd's diaries, and I don't know who they were collected by, but supposedly he had some very detailed descriptions of the inner Earth people,
Yeah.
the land, and then I managed to see this one video. It was on YouTube, but it was a TikTok video. It basically showed the map of it flat, but what was beyond the ice wall, and it showed other lands. And so I thought if we were going to try to connect the dots on how this all is orchestrated, what if the entire world as we know it is flat, but we, knowing that there's only, or what we perceive as, there's only 7 continents, right?
Yeah.
And we perceive that it's a round globe. But what if that there is an ice wall, but it's just to restrict us from going out there? And that's going to lead me down this other rabbit hole from that 5-hour documentary, because I'm starting to put all these pieces from all this collective information that I've gathered. And this documentary that lasted 5 hours really brought some interesting facts to the table in regard to flat Earth and why we think the way we do. But before I say that, going back to that documentary on Netflix, one of the things I never knew, because I used to live in Tokyo, and I thought it was kind of odd that you go from like LaGuardia in order to get to Japan.
Yeah.
I mean, wouldn't it be easier to go from California to get to Japan?
Yes. That's how supposedly they came and bombed Pearl Harbor. They came over the Pacific, supposedly. But
yeah.
like I had when you were on the Conspiracy Tuesday, the first Conspiracy Tuesday, and I had mentioned that we don't fly over the Pacific. You were like, you know what? I know that. You know what? Yeah. So I also am curious because like you got like Malaysian airplanes that are going down and never to be seen again. So what's that all about? And that's usually off the Pacific too, but they're not supposed to be going over the Pacific. So yeah, I found that pretty interesting. Why are we always flying over the Atlantic?
Yeah, I mean, I think you waste less fossil fuel going, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, honestly, that really does raise a red flag. And I don't think that, because CIA basically invented the word conspiracy theorist. So it's basically to gaslight anybody that thinks outside of what we've been taught, of social norms. And so another thing too, to kind of go with this whole flat earth thing in reference to that 5-hour documentary, I thought this was interesting too, is that, I've always talked about the pyramids, I mean, we still to this day don't know how those were manufactured. And yet the symmetry of them, of where they are built, are so precise as far as, geographically where they sit on our alleged globe.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of talk about supposedly that they were generators to give out free energy to the people, because there's like one that goes down like this, and you need water in order to have electricity. I'm not a electrician, so I mean, I don't know how you would get that, but the way they described it on the History Channel, it made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But that 5-hour documentary brought something to my attention. When we had gone through COVID and there was all that speculation about depopulating us, why would they want to depopulate us? Well, I mean, yeah, ideally it would be to control the masses, but something else in that one documentary that I sent you, it showed a picture of Russia back in like 1700, and it showed like the land masses out there, or it showed the infrastructure out there with all the buildings that were in this particular, I guess it was one of those metropolitan towns in Russia, maybe Moscow, I don't know, but the buildings. So my point is, during that time of the 1700s, there was a population of, I think, 400,000 to 500,000. But if you look at the infrastructure, it was, I mean, it was meant to hold anywhere from 5 million people. So basically what they were saying is that over the course of however long we've been on this, or just existed alone, that the I guess you could call it the 1% or whoever holds the key uh, would depopulate, where rather it be some of these viruses, just like we experienced with COVID,
Yeah.
Where it and even getting the jab has actually killed more supposedly than the actual COVID virus itself.
Right.
Uh,
And we now know that it was created in a lab.
exactly in
They
Wuhan.
dropped those documents during the Depp Heard trials. Because whenever something is on every channel in the media where it's meant as a distraction. So I mean, the Johnny Depp and the Amber Heard trial was
Yeah.
it was so big, everybody was talking about it constantly, and then they dropped these documents about the about the COVID virus being created in a lab.
And I just wonder too, it's like, are we really that shallow that let's hear what's going on with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard versus I mean, I didn't follow it. I don't even know what happened. That's just a train wreck. I was more
Yeah,
interested in what was going on this other side. But then again, we don't have really a choice what gets, pushed into the mainstream media and what narrative they want us to follow. So I mean,
right.
if you think about it too, how do we still not know who was all on the Epstein list? The
Yes, they put out the list twice supposedly, but who knows if that is even correct.
Mhm.
I mean, there's a lot of people on there. In my mind, it's everybody. It's
Yeah.
everybody, all the politicians, all the power heads, all Hollywood, all that shit. Everybody is in on it. And I was just talking to Callie on Conspiracy Tuesday number 3, and she had mentioned that they're saying, what the hell is her name? It's the little girl that went missing, the beauty pageant. The name is escaping me. Ramsey, I think, is the last name.
Are you talking
Um,
about Jean Ramsey
yes,
back in the
yes,
90s? Yeah.
yes, yeah. So she was saying that there's a theory out that she is Katy Perry.
Oh, I
And
don't.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, could just because of the how Katy Perry acts and stuff sometimes, and she was on stage and she started going crazy and saying, "Master, help me! I don't feel so good, Master, Master," and she like collapsed on stage. Um, but so I don't know if you've seen the picture of the little girl, but there's a woman that's fairly close behind her in the picture, and it looks a lot like Ghislaine Maxwell.
Really? I'll
Yeah,
have to go and check that out.
yeah. I you
So what are they saying, that Ghislaine has
they
something to do with Jean Bonnet, and that Jean
yeah,
Bonnet is Katy Perry?
yes. So they're saying, so it is said that her and Epstein had taken her, brainwashed her, and used her for whatever they chose to use her for, and then allowed her to become Katy Perry. Basically changed her identity in a way, I guess. But
That's
I mean, the part of that she is Katy Perry, I feel like is a little far fetched. But uh, them taking her, I can believe that part. You know.
uh,
So it's
if
the
you if you had told me maybe like at a Katy Perry concert, there's a girl in the audience sitting next to Ghislaine Maxwell, like I probably would have been like, okay, I'll look at it, But I mean, weirder things have happened. I mean, I never really followed Flat Earth until there were just I literally only watched that documentary on Netflix because I was bored, and
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to see why would someone's mind even go there.
Right.
So
I think that was a hit piece, though. I think
mhm.
Netflix put that out to be like, hey, these fucking people are crazy.
Yeah, because they weren't. I mean, the two that were on there hosting the whole, um, hosting the whole documentary, they were kind of out there, but they did, however, present some good, interesting thoughts and ideas, theories, if you will. But um, they were saying in that 5 hour documentary too, I've oftentimes wondered how are the pyramids built, but I never really thought of how old some of these cathedrals are and these limestone arches that date thousands of years ago. So if they date thousands of years ago, where's the equipment, or what was the equipment? Because to even come close to manufacturing something like that would have to come after the Industrial Revolution. So
Yes.
how is it that some of these beautiful, just these statues, these gargoyles that sit on these monuments, these cathedrals, I mean, how are they so precise? I mean, and they're also made out of limestone. So if you know anything about limestone, I mean, that's can weigh quite a bit, especially when you're talking about at least 2 flights worth of artwork that goes onto these cathedrals. And then at the very top of these cathedrals, if you ever notice, I don't know the term that they use, but they're usually on each end, on each corner at the very top. It looks like a one-man balcony type of deal. They're saying that something used to sit inside of it in order to house and give people free energy at one time.
Yeah.
And that's why you see those empty because they took it out. And supposedly all the stained glass that actually didn't come until later. So there's actually something to do with wind, and we're led to believe that these were places of worship when actually they were generators to help generate the towns. Because if you look at like an aerial shot of some of these lands,
like all the town halls with the dome roofs, and they got the metal, the copper pole sitting at top of it. Yeah.
But if they're dating back, I mean, if they're 1,000 years old or even 500, how did they build it? And so they were talking about part of that was, we've had so many different viruses and these pandemics. And so what they do is they depopulate and then they repopulate again, then depopulate. So anytime you want something to play out, we're going to have to depopulate some of the population. So who's to say that we haven't had some of this technology back then that eventually, I guess you could say, got thrown out, tossed away, or covered up in order to produce more people to believe a certain ideology, as opposed to before. Then you got more workers, working for the rich man. And I don't know, it was very interesting to see how, I was looking at I guess the big city in Russia, not Moscow, it was some other city in Russia that they were showing a picture of. But it looks, I mean, it's like a wide lens of showing this entire town. And it was built to house about 5 million people, yet at that time there was only, or at least they say, a population of 500,000. So when you think about it, I'm thinking, how would they have taken all this limestone or on all this granite, marble, what have you, built these beautiful cathedrals if we were only on horse and buggy back in those days?
Yeah. So
I mean,
I heard a theory actually a couple days ago. Actually, no, I think it was somebody's diary. Where they had come over here. It might have been something about Columbus when he got here. The cities were already cities. in America.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I mean that ties into like the Tartaria stuff. So like and then and giants. I mean you look at a
Yeah,
lot of these older buildings. First of all, um what happened to our architecture? You know, if our technology is so much better now, why are the older buildings so much more beautiful and so
exactly.
articulate? You know what I mean? But yeah, that gets into the giant theory where all these older buildings, like you see them comprised as like town halls or um municipal buildings and stuff like that, and their doorways, I mean they've condensed them and made them smaller doors now, but you can see like the structure of how
Yeah.
these doors were freaking humongous. Why were they so big? In the windows, and then you can see that a lot of them are underground. You can see doors and windows underground. Why do you need windows if that part was built underground? What happened? Why is the ground higher than the building, higher than the windows?
And then it makes you think too, if the world is flat, and then this map that this one TikToker had presented, um, so it basically showed the ice wall around all 7 continents, but then it showed outside of this ice wall, which we perceive as this is all there is, but beyond that, it's nothing but land, water, other oceans, and such. And so it makes me think during a certain period during our existence, did some group say, okay, you all go do your thing, or we don't subscribe to, uh, I guess, politics in a way, where
Yeah.
if this is how you want to do things, but we believe, because in the Admiral Byrd diaries, and there was so supposedly during the Eisenhower administration, I'm sure you've heard of the name Thor, the superhero Thor.
Yes.
Well,
Yep.
that was actually inspired from an alien encounter, uh, that supposedly, allegedly, that Eisenhower had with a alien. I guess it was one of the Great Whites. Um, a cop had pulled over, saw a spacecraft, pulled over, and there was these tall, white people, but they looked somewhat human, but it was kind of off or whatever. So you knew
Yeah.
they weren't completely human, maybe hybrids, I guess. And it said, "Take me to your leader." So supposedly that is where that term came from. Take me to your leader was because of that, because this cop takes these aliens to Eisenhower. One of them that goes by Thor sat with Eisenhower in the Oval Office and said, "We have a solution for your people, for your civilization to live better lives, and not having to work, because everything's about the almighty dollar." But Eisenhower looked at the proposal, turned it down, and said that just won't work for um, our world. And so it makes me wonder if, okay, so maybe in this documentary it talks about how we're actually underwater, and how the sky, that's blue, it's actually water, which would explain, if you've seen the clip of, I think it was China, whenever they had to close the airport down because of the UFO,
Uh-huh.
and they were showing how it actually makes waves, um, the craft.
Yes.
But what if it's in water? Like, what if we are in this dome, and what if these
That
other what if these other alleged creatures are actually just humans like you and I that just happen to look different, because of maybe the region of the the land that we actually do have that we don't know about.
right.
uh so what if they're just like us, and they have their own society, civilization, their own currency, everything that we have, but yet they do it in a different way, a different manner. So which would explain when this Thor guy goes to speak to Eisenhower and says, this is how we live. And then I thought about it too, like, how did they get there? Well, Christopher Columbus wrote in his diary once that he had seen a UFO when he was setting sail. It was one late night. There was this beam of light that came out of the water, and it hovered, and then it just shot off. So it makes me think too, if and then going back to this TikToker who said there's this portal in between the ice walls that if anyone were to try to get in, it sends massive earthquakes. So it's almost like letting our government know that someone's trying to come in. And so I guess that sends an alert. Like NASA is actually like our Coast Guard, I guess you can say, to tell these people to go back. The ones trying to get in and tell us that there's a better way of life. You all have been indoctrinated. There's a better way to live and not have to do things the way you all have been doing. And so,
I think it's kind of crazy that we have to work in order to live. Like, I mean, I understand like work for like stuff, but like we're the only species on this earth that live for money and live I guess like we put ourselves in these stressful situations and these stressful jobs, and stress can kill you. You got the plaque building up in your arteries just from stressing out and being having anxiety, and you have these panic attacks and shit. Like, we're not supposed to live this way, and we're supposed to be more connected with nature. We should like the hunter gatherer. Like, I do like a lot of the new technology. Obviously, I mean, I only like it because I'm used to it now. But if we were still like in a hunter gatherer situation, I'd probably like it just as much if I was accustomed to it. You know what I mean? But I do find myself when I'm barefoot out in nature and just being a person out in the world, without anything, telling me what to do, where to go. Like, it's just so peaceful.
Yeah, I find myself as I get older, that's more of what I'm striving for, is to have less and, get out of what little debt that I do have, and just, I often think more. I mean, even as a kid, I thought I was kind of the oddball, or maybe I was lazy, because I would always get lost in thought and ideas. And, I really did. I thought about the universe, and I thought that was, looking back on it, that was very eclectic to be someone of my age, to be that deep in thought. And I could play for hours by myself. I could create my own playtime without having stuff for things. I could use rocks, sticks, and that's how I played when I was a kid. And I thought to myself as a kid, I'm like, we're in school. I believe we went to school from 8 o'clock till like 3:15, Monday through Friday. And I thought, we're here like 8 hours a day for how long is it? 13 years we're in school, and we're stuck in this building, yet we get sent home with more work that we couldn't, like, why couldn't we have covered this in the 8 hours that we're here? I never was sold on it. I kept thinking, and even still to this day, I mean, I think an education, is great, but how many classes have you had that were literally worthless, that you're not using till this day? Who says that in order to be an educated person that you have to spend X amount of hours, just to get these credits, to get this shitty piece of paper, this overpriced paper that says you're educated? And obviously not, because look at look at the graduates now. I mean, even here in the States, I mean, if you go to any other country, they'll tell you Americans are geographically challenged. I mean, they can't tell you what city or this or that. And I mean, I'm guilty of it too. So, I mean, you think of just some of the pointless classes, the hours spent, and it's like, that's life that I can't get back. and
Yeah.
then only to turn around being told that I need to go get this education. I never wanted to go to college. I only went because I had a scholarship. I really just wanted to be for a minute. Like I
Yeah.
just, I didn't. I really just didn't want to do much of anything. I wanted to take literally a whole year and do absolutely nothing. And yet you're told, and I'm pretty sure we're not the only country that thinks like this, even though they quote it as an American thing, but you're taught that, if you don't do anything the entire day, you should feel guilty. If you don't do anything the entire week, you should. I'm like, no, I think that's how you get back to yourself. I mean, I think you need those moments by yourself, and maybe I wouldn't need an entire week or let alone a month if it wasn't for all this, going back and forth from and to work and then having to get up and repeat it all the very next day, rinse and repeat. I
Right. Well,
mean,
that's what depression is. Depression
yeah,
is just the body decompressing from the constant move and the constant hustle and bustle of modern daily life. So
and
like
and being,
people are like, I struggle with depression. I was like, man, we all do. I mean, some people worse than others. I'll admit that, but everybody has spells of depression. It's not um singular. It's not for just certain people, or because you were raised a certain way, you're not gonna have your automatically depression because of your trauma and stuff. Everybody experienced depression. Hey, are you into healing crystals? You should head on over to etsy.com/shop/heal with Christina and check out my friend Christina's sweet ass crystal shop. She's got a bunch of cool things in there. I was looking at it the other day, and most likely I will be purchasing some crystals. Just based, not because I'm fucking a spiritual bitch, just because I think they look pretty cool. Anyways, if you guys head on over there, she has um, items ready to ship, except for the crystal mushrooms. She makes those to order. Time is 1 to 3 business days, depending on the amount of orders. She currently has 28 different crystals and 3 different wire types. You can get on there. She has a whole bunch of crystal healing jewelry, homemade soy crystal candles, fun resin art pieces, and amazing handcrafted crystals. And if you go check it out and you decide that you like some shit and you decide to purchase some shit, you can enter the code, a coupon code, weird 125. Almost fucked that up. Weird 125. That's a capital W. The 1 is spelt out just like in the podcast name, and then the 2 and the 5. So if you use weird 125, you get 25% off your purchase of whatever you decide to get from her shop. And I really hope you do and support her shop. She does amazing things, and she's an amazing friend, and she's an amazing person. So, check it out.
yeah, and I know I've had my fair share of it, and my partner and I literally, I mean, he gets depressed, and he blames a lot of it on his diabetes, and I tell him, I said, I've never been one that thought suicidally. Like I've never been one to think suicidal thoughts. I've never have. I've always thought, I mean, have I entertained the thought? Yes, but would I have actually have done it? No, I wouldn't. But I've always had the mindset that there's got to be a light at the end of the tunnel because life is like a roller coaster. You got ups and then you have downs, and so I always like to think that somewhere in this rocky period of my life, it's going to get easier. It has to get easier at some point. And
Right.
so, but
Well, I
being
mean,
almost,
sorry to cut you off, but like another analogy is like a flower isn't gonna grow from just sunshine.
right.
You need the rainy days as well.
And I think going to that point, what you just said, we need sun. I mean, we're in a building all day.
Yes,
closed in.
that too. Yeah.
So that's part of depression number one right there. That's one thing we can't fix. So my partner and I, we have property now. We just bought it. It's half an acre out in East Texas. And we're actually planning on either selling our home um, and maybe getting like a 1-bedroom modular home put out there, and that would literally pay for the entire thing. There's already septic and water. We got it for 5,300. So
Wow.
but this is like this is like out in the pine woods, and we met some of the neighbors around that area, and there was this one lady, Melinda. She told us she's in her 50s now, and she was sitting there. She said, "Are y'all friends of Jonathan's?" And we said, "Yeah," because Jonathan is my partner's friend who started buying up all these foreclosed properties that are within this area of East Texas.
Okay.
And so he sold us one of his lots. And so we were walking around there, and we met this woman, Melinda, and she's in her 50s. And so we sat down. I mean, you think of how the hospitality of people out in the country versus in inner cities or suburbs, the hospitality of country people is unlike, I mean, they get a bad rep, but they are the most inviting, humble people you will ever meet. So this lady, Melinda, actually invited us into her home. It was one addition to her home. She had 2 different additions. The part that we went in was her husband's man cave that he was building out. He basically, they bought a Home Depot shed that was, I think, about 800 square feet. And they just converted it into a living space. And we were sitting in there, and I'm just looking around. I mean, you can tell that it still had some work, but I looked at it, I said, I could live in this. I could live this way. I have no problem living in a shed. I mean, it had AC, it had running water, it had all the amenities that you actually need in order to function on a day to day. And I told my partner, I said, and this is what Melinda said. She said, we're so sold on things in society that you must have the big, beautiful home with the white picket fence. You must have this grand old wedding that will put you and set you back 20 grand. You must go and get this overpriced education that you will spend the rest of your life paying off. And she said, I would get up every morning. She said, I would do my hair. I'd even had extensions. I do this every morning, put on the lipstick, the foundation, the makeup. I pick up my outfit the night before, I put it on. And she said, I did this every single day of my life. And she said, and then I go out there in the rat race during rush hour traffic, and then do it again in the afternoon. And she goes, and this would be 5 days a week. She worked for, she had a state job, and she had something to do with HR or what have you, and worked closely with this county judge. But she had a very promising job. And so her first husband, they divorced. She had this beautiful 2-story home, she said. And it was, I think it was in one of the major suburbs of Dallas, or outside of Dallas. And she said, I'm in this home. My kids are graduated. She said, I started seeing this guy. He was, a good old boy hillbilly type. And he already had lived out there. And she said, I just sat there looking at this house. And she said, I'm just going to collect the money from this. And she goes, I'm going to downsize, and I'm going to go live in this shed with, I know it sounds bad, but it was I could live in this thing. I mean, but they did it themselves. I mean, how proud of yourself would you feel? I mean, that you actually put in the insulation and the, building the wall and, connecting your own plumbing. I mean, these are things that we used to know how to do as human beings before, you got corporation involved. Yeah. And I thought to myself, my partner also has another friend who lives out in East Texas, and she was very much a bona fide city chick. And, she worked in the auto industry. She did the same thing, get her hair and makeup done, get her nails done, had, nice clothes. And but yet she was also working part-time bartending at night. And so uh, she inherited like 30 acres of land from her dad. And the guy that she met, Randy, went out there and built a 2-story log cabin with no blueprints whatsoever. But they had a camper while he was building it. And she said, I remember going from Irving. Irving is a suburb of Dallas, and because that's where she lived. She says, I would go from Irving on the weekends to go see Randy out in East Texas. And mind you, East Texas, just anywhere in the Dallas vicinity, is about 2 hours out of the city limits. And so she's out there, and she said, while Randy was out there building, she said, I'm in this little bed in this camper, got a little TV. And she goes, and I had this, little shower. I mean, you walk in, you're like this. I saw it too. And she would tell me I used to live out of that. And so, but she goes, why am I like working my ass off? I mean, everything that's in this camper, this is all I need. This is all I need. I should be fine and happy with just this. And so my partner and I, after the talk with his friend Tiffany, and then after the talk with Melinda, I told him, I said, I want to do this. I said, I don't want to work anymore. It's apparent I'm never going to be a millionaire. I said, I said, there's a Brookshire's about like 10 miles up the street from, this little Pine Woods Valley. I said, I will go work there for $10 an hour, stocking some shelves and shit for, like minimum 20 hours or 30 just to keep some insurance. And that's it. Like, I could live that way, knowing that everything is absolutely paid off. And really, this $10 an hour job is helping me buy the food that I need. I don't need to go to expensive restaurants like I used to, and then go tag tag my location in Facebook and show my plate. I don't have to go on these, I do enjoy traveling, but if it meant me forfeiting to go and travel overseas versus staying put so I don't have to work and I can just be and enjoy nature, because I have a lot of hobbies. I like to write. I like doing what we're doing right now. I like spending time with my dogs. I actually enjoy cleaning my house, when I'm not stressed out or tired from work. I actually enjoy just the typical household stuff. And so I have things to keep me busy. I love gardening too. So,
oh my God, I love gardening. I like cleaning I work like 60 hours a week, Monday through Friday. So I work around 12, sometimes 14 hours a day. And I like to have my house clean, but when I'm home, I'll make a mess, and then I'm just like, I'm too tired to like clean up after myself because I just worked so long. And then, I rush home to take my dog out so she doesn't go to the bathroom in the house because she just spent 12 hours at home all by herself. Take her out. I just got chicken, so lately the past couple of weeks, well, I didn't just get them, but they grew up and they're outside now. So I go open up the hen house so that they can come out into the range and walk around and stretch out. And then I go to the gym, and then I get home, I make something, and I make something to eat. I do my laundry. I pull my laundry out. I got like 4 piles of laundry literally sitting right here next to me that I haven't taken care of, because I will start it and then I'll just be like, oh, I gotta go to bed because I gotta wake up and do this
I
all
hate laundry
again. You know what I mean? Oh yeah, laundry is the worst. But after I'm done cooking, the dishes go right back into the sink, and they just pile up because I got other stuff. My dog has to go out one more time before I go to bed, and it's just it's
everything that
the working to death, working myself to death, basically.
Everything that you just said, that sounds like everybody's life. Like, it's so routine. And I told my partner, I said, I'm sick of this. I said, ever since I had to go and work, and I grew up in the entertainment industry, so I never really got my big break. So,
Yeah.
but my degree's in film. I always aspired to be in the film industry. You know, I had an internship for a while that I thought would lead into a full-time position for SNL Studios because I was their bitch for 2 years. You know, anytime any tourist wanted to come see a free taping of an SNL show because it's taped during the week.
Yeah.
And it's live for an audience Monday through, but it airs on Saturday. So that's how that works. And so, you know, it was just basically lining tourists up to see a free taping of the show and going out there and, you know, telling them when to laugh, cueing them when to laugh, telling them what the cues are, you know, when you're supposed to, ha, that was funny, because we know SNL's not always on point. So,
Yeah, that's true.
But I've strived so hard to do what I love. And I do love that industry. I love molding and making, you know, basically nothing into something. You know, I love storytelling. I love script writing. I love coming up with, you know, shot angles and even just spending time on the software program to edit video and add in the music, add in the effects. And I mean, I could sit for hours doing that, but unfortunately it wasn't paying the bills. So,
Right.
you know, I just kind of got stuck in the world of retail. So I was in sales for a minute and I hated it. And because I don't like people. So, I thought about, well, you know, because people are mean, you know.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah, for sure.
I like people, but I don't like the demands that, I guess I should say, I don't like customers. So,
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I was 16 working at Dunkin' Donuts. You know what I mean? And I had this lady, she goes, I need 4 coffees, blah, 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 blah. She never specified hot or cold. So usually when they don't specify,
it's hot.
it's hot. So I make 4 hot coffees, extra larges, by the way. So that's a lot of freaking product. And I'm rushing around basically working the drive through by myself. She gets to the window and she goes, I asked for ice. I was like, you actually didn't ask for ice. You just said coffee. So I didn't know whether to make it ice or to make it hot. And she got so mad. She's like, I've been sitting in this fucking line forever. And I was like, I've been doing this by myself. And she goes, what happened to the customer's always right? And I go, you know what? Make your own fucking coffee then. And I fucking threw the headset across the freaking thing and I left.
Fast food is, I'm serious. Like when I go into Starbucks, you know, I feel sorry for those. I feel like you need a Harvard education to work at Starbucks because when they're like, let me have I don't know, a super castifristic expialidocious latte and hold the whip with 3 pumps of this and 2 pumps of that. I'm like, dude, like just buy the fucking drink. And I'm one of those too. I don't like asking coworkers, you know, that, oh, hey, I'm going to Wendy's or I'm going to here and there. Let me have a burger. Hold the no. You get the burger as is. You can take out the lettuce when I bring it to you. Like I don't like all that extra stuff, you know. I mean, but those Starbucks workers, I mean, not to mention if they have a drive-through, they're working the drive-through. They have customers coming in. Not to mention they're fulfilling app orders, and that's what I hate about today too. This day and time is that okay? Yeah, it's convenient to place your order so it's there when you go to pick it up. But what I don't like is everything is about placing those damn app orders. So me, someone that likes to actually walk in, because you know what? I refuse to download the Starbucks app.
Same.
And every time you ask me, and I'm like, no, I'm sick of apps. And I know you're sick of placing these apps. So let me just come in and ask you for this coffee. And so, and not to mention now they got DoorDash. I mean, there's all these components. I'm like, you all are just doing way too much. And one person cannot handle it. And when I say one person, I mean, yeah, they have a team, but there's so much to just have to think. And me, I'm tired of thinking. I don't want to think anymore. I don't want to think. I just want to be. I want to have time to simply do absolutely nothing. There's it's a chick flick, but I like it. It's called Eat, Pray, Love with Julia Roberts. And so I don't know if you've seen it, but she spends 3 months or 4 months, Yeah, it's 4 months because she goes 4 months to Italy, 4 months to India, and then 4 months to Indonesia, I believe, somewhere in
Yes.
Indonesia.
Yep.
So when she's in Italy, man, I should have been Italian because the Italian guy says to Julia, like, "Oh, you Americans, you know, you
Oh
um,
shit.
you dropped your camera."
Yep.
I had to edit that out. But she says, or the guy says to her, they're at the barber shop. It's a scene where they're in the barber shop, and I think she meets some Norwegian woman, the blonde lady, and
Yep.
they're sitting there with the two Italian guys, and they're getting groomed. And he says something along the lines of, "Oh, you dumb Americans, you sit around all weekend in your PJ bottoms watching Netflix." And he says, "And you feel bad about it later." And he goes, "We're us Italians. We invented the art of doing nothing." And he says it in Italian, where he said, and she goes, "What does that mean?" And he goes, "The art of simply doing nothing." He goes, "As an Italian, I see a sign that says, 'You deserve a break today.' Why, yes, I do deserve a break. I'm not going to feel guilty about having a break." That's always been my mentality. I just don't want to work. I mean, you know what I mean when I say that,
Yes.
and I hate when I hear coworkers of mine, because I feel like this has been ingrained in us. We always talk about what we would do if we won the lottery. And most of the worker, I feel like they think they're going to get scolded if they say, because they always say, "Well, even if I had X amount of money, I would still work." And I look at them, I go, "Not me, not me."
I
I
would
can find,
work my land. I would get land and work the land. That's what I would do. I'd
yeah,
work for
exactly,
myself, not for somebody
exactly,
else.
exactly. I have no problem literally working. I mean, when I was a kid and it was summer break, um, I think this is the correct term, but those ply bricks, or those big bricks with the holes in them, they're heavy as shit. We got an 8-foot ladder. My grandma had a detached garage, and on the side was this flat roof shed. I would take those bricks one by one at 10 years old, 10, 11 years old, take them all the way to the top, sweating my ass off because it's so humid, hot and humid in Texas during the summer.
Yeah.
And so we would carry all these rustic nails and these sheets of wood, and this blue tarp, and we made our own clubhouse, our own fort. And so um, I mean, we even got the broom up there. We were sweeping off all the leaves. And I don't know. As I get older, the simple things amuse me more
Yes.
than as when I was a kid, where, I was thinking about, I want to go here. I want to do this. My grandma, I feel like I'm becoming more and more like my grandparents, because she would sit there in her recliner working her crossword puzzle while me and my sister played on the floor, watching Frasier, I Love Lucy, and Perry Mason, and then Tales from the Crypt when that would come on. Then when MASH came on, we would go to bed. And so she would sit in her recliner working her crossword, and then she had these two paper bags sitting on the side of the recliner, because she had a huge pecan tree out back, and she'd just sit there plucking away at pecans, getting the shells, putting them in one bag and the pecans in another. And that's what she did. And then she had her 1,000-piece puzzles that she would sit and work at her dining table. And I'm like, shit, that sounds good to me. As I get older, that's what I want to be. I want to be
Yeah.
that old person, you
Yep.
know?
Yeah, I agree with you. My grandmother was the same way. So, she was always knitting, or,
Uh-huh.
something, just the simple, like, homemaker stuff. In now today's society, it's a lot harder to have, one parent, or one income, really.
Oh yeah.
And they've worked so hard to destroy the nuclear family.
Oh yeah. They do.
And men ain't shit, you know what I mean? Women
Oh,
are high value, even though the only thing they have to offer you is their vagina. So, but they're high
I,
value.
And I feel bad for you because I say all day long, I'm like, I'm glad I'm gay. I said, because I see these like these women out here that just think so highly of themselves. And you know
So
something?
entitled. They're so
So
entitled these
entitled.
days.
I'm like, but this is this dude's money. It ain't yours, you
Yep.
know? And if you're a dude with money, it's like I would tell that woman, and it goes on even in the gay community too.
Oh, I'm sure.
You get some little young twink and he wants to spend this rich dude's money. This is what I have to say to them. You know what? If you're going to take advantage, don't go after the material stuff that has no value. Learn a trade. If he's going to pay for it, go and learn a trade because eventually he will trade you in for something new.
Yep.
I
Yep.
mean, that's all it is. I mean,
Something
it's a
younger with less
transactional.
bodies.
Yeah, be smart about it at least. I could respect you more if you were smart about it instead of, oh, I need this these clothes or no, if he's dishing out so or help him get you to start a business,
Yep.
if you want to do photography or whatever, you know let him educate you, let him help you start that business because eventually you're going to get sick of one another because the basis of that relationship was all sexual. I mean, it was a transactional relationship if you're being real. And I was telling a good friend of mine because it's only as I get older I feel that I do get wiser because if my partner was out of the picture right now, honestly I don't think I would date anymore. I really wouldn't. I mean unless it happened naturally, I wouldn't be on like a dating profile or anything
Yeah.
like that. But um a lot of these young people, they're on these dating apps. And I told the girl that works under me, I told her, I said, when you're looking at guys, if they're shirtless, swipe left. I said, because that's a narcissist. That's somebody that thinks so highly of themselves. Or even for men too. If you're out there and you're dating, you see a chick out there that's got all these selfies and posing,
Yeah.
that's a narcissist. Swipe left.
Yeah. If their ass is in the picture, I don't
Swipe left.
I don't. Yeah, that's what I do. But I have been fortunate enough to meet someone off of one of those, and she's actually right here right now. And she just got here, um, and she talks to me like nobody ever has, and
Mhm.
it makes me feel good. I have a hard time with compliments, so
Mhm.
and she gives me a lot of them, and I just stare at her and be like, are you being like, are you serious, or are you fucking pulling my leg right now? you
Just
know
embrace it. I mean, everyone needs a good compliment every now and again. And, my partner, I really have me someone good. I mean, even my mom, when she met him, she's like, he reminds me of daddy, her dad, because he fixes things. Like, I think she had a wobbly chair and he got out the toolbox and started fixing it. And she's like,
uh
she goes, he fixes shit. Keep him. And so, um, and I'm like technically challenged. So if there's something, or I'm not, or mechanically challenged. So I mean,
yeah.
I got him whenever I need something fixed, and he never hesitates. And I think we're a good yin and yang where we balance each other because he leaves shit everywhere, and I'm the one picking up after him. So I mean, it gets on my nerves, but I think the trade-off is that when it comes to something in the house, maybe it's the AC, he tinkers with it, it's fixed, which would have cost me maybe a few $100s to have someone just even come look at it.
Yep.
So I think I have to always put that in my mind, like, there's things that he does and brings to the table that I don't, that I can't. And so, and vice versa. And, he'll sit there, he'll go, uh, why did you pick someone like me? And anytime that conversation goes there, because I'm not good getting sentimental, I'm just not. And so he'll say, why do you love me so much? And I'll be sitting there. I think I'm like on my tablet or reading a book. I'm like, oh, I don't know. That's the answer.
I think a good answer is because I choose to, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, I tell him this, but he asks me all the time. So it's like, yeah, I'm going to start giving you these bullshit answers because it's a bullshit question. I'm with you because I want to be with you, you know? So,
Right. My ex used to ask me that all the time. Well, actually, you know what? I used to ask her that all the time, and she would give me these weird answers because I feel like maybe because our relationship dynamic was so odd to me.
mhm,
I don't know how to really explain it, but I know that I asked her that question a lot, and there was one time early on I asked her, and she's like, I don't know. I was like, you don't know? And she's like, yeah, do you know why you love me? And I go, I absolutely do, and it's because this, and this. And
mhm,
she's just like, oh my God, I'm so like, you just took the breath out of me or whatever. And she just, I don't know, it was, eventually she was able to like critique the words and stuff like that. But there, I just don't, I feel like I asked her because I felt insecure
mhm,
in the relationship, and there was a lot of reasons that I was, you know what I mean?
mhm.
There was constantly other people in the middle of us. So,
Yeah.
you know, and there was that's the problem with social media is these women have like all these options of all these guys, and there's these guys that were on her social media that, you know, whenever there was something posted of just her, it would have like 100 likes, and there was a handful of guys that got a little bit too talkative from time to time, and it was like, you know, and she didn't like deter them from
Yeah.
saying some of the things that they would say. So I would say stuff, you know, eventually, and then she's like, "Oh, you don't ever have to worry about them." And then we split up, and then two of them she ended up being with. So, like, obviously, you know, there was a reason for me to worry, you know what I mean? And it's just
Yeah.
social media is
But you
is
know what? Regardless, she would have did that anyway. Because I'm going to tell you something about relationships. They do get stale, and I don't mean that to sound like my relationship style because it's not. I'm just saying that
yeah,
they get
right.
kind of stagnant. They get stagnant at some point. So then, you know, here's what I'm trying to say is that no matter who, and I don't care if you're with Sidney Crawford or if you're with some of the most beautiful people in the world, there will come a time where the relationship becomes stagnant and you have to do something. Relationships are always going to be work. They're
Right.
always going to be work. And that's even with friendships too.
Yep.
That's with family members. So it's inevitable. It's not just having a spouse, but it's family, it's friends. All of it takes work. You know, even with my best friend, there would be like a few days I wouldn't talk to her, and she's reaching out to me, and and it has nothing to do with her. I just don't want to talk. But I
Yeah.
feel the need that, and it's nothing personal, nothing towards her. I just don't want to talk to anybody. And so,
Right.
but then I'm like, it's funny because I start tallying in my head. I'm like, okay, if I talk to her today, then I can at least go 5 more days and before I have to talk to her again. So let me just call her up.
That's
But I do that
funny.
with my mom too, unfortunately. She's my best friend, but I do go through periods where I don't like the phone. I prefer text messaging, but um, I got off of Facebook. I got off of all of that. The only thing I have is my Instagram, but it's strictly for the podcast. And
Yeah.
the biggest uh one of the biggest reasons, other than the obvious, of why I got off of it, meaning just the toxicity of being on social media,
The outrage
was
culture is
yeah,
so prominent on that shit right now.
yeah. But I gave a friend of mine said it best because I was basically giving the answer that everyone does. Oh, I stay on there because I have extended family and friends that I don't see all the time. And
Yeah.
she said, and so my friend, she's a coworker of mine who became a really good friend of mine, Slajana. Uh, she is Eastern European, so they just tend to just say things, they're just forward with their opinions and thoughts. And so she goes, screw that. She goes, if they actually love or they want to spend time with you, or if they want to be in your life, they can pick up the phone. She goes, I don't buy that excuse. And I thought about it. I said, you know what? You're right. And I think it was just those few words that she said. I was like, the like aunts and uncles that supposedly, like, I'm always the one reaching out to them, seeing how they're doing. The only time they ever really reach out to me is to say happy birthday. And like, you should be calling and talking to me throughout the year. Like, is it that much of an effort to put in to simply say, hey, let's get together, let's meet up the street for coffee, or let's go grab a burger? So I completely just shut them all off. And I'm like, I have this rule now in my phone contacts, because I used to have anywhere, I'm not exaggerating, 300 to 400 contacts in my phone. And that was anywhere from family members to, when I had my own business, those transactional friendships, and just contacts when I lived in New York, contacts from them. And I just went on a deleting spree. I just deleted, and it wasn't to be mean. It was just, you've heard of minimizing, things, stuff in your house. Well, the same can be said your phone. I'll go through all my apps on my phone and, like, have I used this? No, I don't need this. And I'll delete apps, because there is nothing worse than just swiping. So I get overwhelmed easily. So I went through my contacts, and I literally can just go like that. There's all my contacts in my phone. Like, and it's just the essential people that I talk to, maybe not on a daily, but I'm going to be reaching out to them within the month. And I have this rule that if I don't hear from you in 6 months to a year, I delete. And so I delete probably around the 6th month. And then you got another 6 months to reach back out. Then if I get some random text message that says, hey, or how are you doing? I just delete it. I mean, it took you this long to ask how I was doing? Fuck you. Like, no, I don't need that in my life. So if you really truly want to be in someone's life, I mean, you can't have that many friends and call them your friends. They're your friends. Your real friends are only going to be a handful of people. Typically, you could probably count them on one, maybe 2 hands if you're lucky. And that's it. I mean, you can spread yourself way too thin, and that's exactly what I was doing. I would literally, even with my my clients, I would go through the phone listings, and I very much am my grandmother, because I would go through and my grandfather was the same way too. He would go through his phone book, and whereas I'm going through my contacts on my phone, and I would just call and, hi, how are you? And it wouldn't even be business related, like, do you need headshots? Do you need me to do a demo reel for you? Do you need another acting class? Or no, I would, because that's what I did on my business. And so I would literally call them. How's the agent? You gone on any auditions? How's the kids? I mean, I literally was very genuine about it. It was, and I have that nurturing side to me, but I felt, I'm spreading myself too thin. And so it was after the DUI, I was like, I'm gonna start just deleting people. I mean, they serve no purpose, and if they reach out, I can make the decision if I want to reach out to them, and and it's okay. There's a few people that have come in and out of my life, like I won't hear from them for years. But they'll just come back in. But you want to know something? I probably would entertain it, because I had a good time. Like my friend, a girlfriend of mine that I went to high school with, we dated for a while. She'll go off for 3-4 years. I won't hear from her. And then she just all of a sudden finds me and comes back into my life. And, usually you would want to just say, no, I'm not dealing with that. But when she does come around, we have a good time. So I don't really need to hold that against her. She's got a life. I got a life. But I will delete her, so it is a surprise whenever I do get a text from her. But words are just words. I'll hear from her. Oh, I missed you. And of course, in my head, I'm thinking, so much that you haven't, reached out in the past 4 years. But I don't say that. But that's what I'm thinking. But
It's
Yeah,
it's fun. It's people make me laugh with the things that they do. I actually talking about downsizing, I actually stopped hanging out with friends. Like I don't really hang out with anybody. So I basically say that I don't have any friends. I've been keeping my phone on silent for like the past 2 months now. So like I
my
feel
phone's
like
always
I'm
on.
yeah, I feel like I'm a little late on texting people back sometimes because I don't hear it. Because I don't want to be like what's the word I'm trying to say? I don't know. I don't want to be beholden to the phone where I'll leave it in one room and I'm in the other enjoying my time with my kids or with my dog or just existing, you know what I mean? And like I hear something on my phone, I'm like, oh, I have to get up and go check it, or I have to stop what I'm doing and go check my phone. Somebody's trying to get a hold of me or something like that. And 9 times out of 10, it's just like a notification on Facebook or something silly like that. So I started keeping it on silent.
And I
And
used to be so addicted to that Facebook. I mean, if I posted something and I didn't realize I was doing it either, it was a constant, like if I posted something, let's say I was proud of, um, I would look to see, oh, who liked it? Oh, what they said. I mean, not realizing that I'm doing it, but I
yeah,
was doing it. I really was.
I did too. I did
And,
too.
and I had to put myself in check, and I realized this isn't healthy. This isn't good. Like, I got to get off of this. And so I did, and I'm from a time period, I was born in 83. So I remember like in early 2000s, I thought it was really weird that it was the first time I had seen it. So when I worked at Saks Fifth Avenue at Galleria, because I got out of customer service, I got into visual merchandising. So I'm like there before store hours and a little bit during store hours, and then my day's done. And so, we do all the visual displays, the window displays, mannequins, and moving the floor around. And, that's what I do now too. And so I've been doing that for almost 20 years now. And moved up into management, even worked at a corporate level too. And when I was working at Saks at the Galleria, my boss and I, and then the other people on our team, we would walk over to either Corner Bakery or Starbucks and get breakfast or a coffee. And I remember the first time seeing like Corner Bakery and Starbucks where they showed like the little uh, Facebook logo or the app that we're now on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And I thought that was like the weirdest thing. I'm like, they have an Instagram, they have a Facebook, that was just like the weirdest thing. Like, when did companies have a platform? This is weird. I mean,
Yeah.
and my best friend and I, when we were living together back in the early 2000s, we were going down Knox Henderson in Dallas in the uptown area, and there were people camping out for the first iPhone. And when we were driving by, I said, we were making jokes because we were talking about all the things that an iPhone could do. And I was like, well, if I want to get on the computer, I'll just get behind my desk and sit at my desktop and, check my email that way. Or, if I want to watch TV, well, I got a big, 50-inch TV in my living room. I'll watch that. I don't need to watch anything on my phone. And here I am,
Yeah.
I got suckered in, but it was just the weirdest thing. And I think I try to really appreciate and value the present moment, like right now, being here right now, like sitting next to me are my dogs. They're laying here, and just enjoying the good conversation and being in the moment, because who's to say that, you know, technology will get so advanced, people will get dumber, you just really can't have conversations like you used to with people.
Right.
Especially with these young ones too. You know how like you kind of make with a complete stranger, I'll make like a sidebar joke or something, and yeah, it may not be that funny, but you would kind of go, whatever.
Yeah.
I was looking at this young person because I made a joke, and they just stood there like a zombie, and I'm thinking,
That's the fluoride.
and I was like, that's where you go, even though it's not funny, you just something like react. There's no reaction. Like just no emotion whatsoever. I mean, they're like a whole different breed. I mean, I know there's some good ones out there, but the majority, collectively speaking, I don't know what's wrong with them. I mean, they're just little walking zombies. I mean, no expression, no emotion, nothing. And it's probably, I mean, I think that we've been blessed from the time period that we grew up in
Yeah.
because we knew what it was to go outside and play. I mean, I see these captions on Instagram because I follow some of these people that show like 80s and 90s memorabilia. And it said, this was our social media. And it showed a bunch of bikes in the front yard.
Yes.
Like, that was us. That
That's
was
how
my
we knew where everybody was by the
exactly.
bikes.
And do you remember? I don't know if you were this type of kid, but I mean, if you saw, it was almost like dating. Like you see a kid playing two houses over, and you're like, should I ask them if they want to play, or what if
Yes.
they reject me? It's all, you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
dude, go over there and ask them, do you want to play? Like,
I remember when I first moved into my grandparents' house, this kid used to ride his rollerblades by my house, and he would stare at me, and I would just stop whatever I'm doing, and I would stare at him, and he would just ride by. And then it happened like a couple days in a row, and then one day he was skating by, and I stopped what I was doing, and I was looking at him, and I just went, "Hi." And he stopped, and he goes, "Hi, my name is blah 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 blah," and I was like, "I'm Kevin." And then we became friends right then
yeah,
and there. We started building forts out in the woods and everything. It was
yeah.
thinking
But
about
that's,
it, it was kind of weird because it was like a couple days in a row of him just skating by, and he's just like staring at me, and I stop and I just stare back, and then
he was
he
thinking the same thing you were. Yeah.
yeah. So it I feel blessed to have grown up without technology, and I see this TikTok going around a lot lately where this guy's like, "So when you say you drink from a water hose, what do you mean?" And I'm like, "What the fuck? What do you mean? What do I mean? I mean, I was outside playing. I turned the fucking water to the water hose, and then I freaking put the water hose up to my mouth and drink the water that's coming out. What do you mean? What do I mean?"
Well,
You know?
yeah. Like, what does that even mean? I mean,
Yeah, I don't know. But this lady had this really like uh drawn out answer. She's like, so when we were kids, we were told to go outside and not to come back inside until it was dinner time. So we would be outside all day playing, no water, nothing to drink, nothing to eat. So we turned this water spigot on and we drank the water. So that's how that works. I was just like, oh, well,
and
I wouldn't have to, I didn't wasn't told that I had to stay outside. I just liked being outside, and I would get thirsty, and instead of having to go inside to get water, I would just turn the water hose on.
and you know what's weird too is my niece and nephew uh, by marriage. So Curtis's sister, that's my partner, his sister moved in with us because she sold her home and she was looking for another one. So in the meantime, she came and lived with us because we have a 3-bedroom house, and she has her adoptive son and then her adoptive daughter. So they were living with us. But you talk about like she would be in the living room when I would get home stuck to the TV. And mind you, I was a big TV watcher, but if there was sun outside, I was outside.
For
I would
sure.
probably watch my morning cartoons or whatever programs I just had to see. I'd watch it and then I would be back outside. But she would sit, but of course, we didn't have cable either. So, I mean, you didn't have where you could go back and replay it. Like, if you
Yeah.
missed it, you missed it. And so she would sit in front of the TV. This was just a few years back. She was 15, 14. No, she was about 15, 16. And then Moksh, he was probably 12, 13. And he's a gamer. Like he's sitting there like up on the TV standing playing his games. And you would have to tell them to go outside. They had bikes. You would have to tell them. Whereas we had we call it the regular Nintendo, before like Super Nintendo, Sega
Yeah.
Genesis. So we had the regular Nintendo, and my next door neighbor, James, I used to play with him religiously. He'd spend the night at my house, I'd spend the night at his. I had a trampoline out back, so it'd be on the trampoline. But we would play for at least a couple hours on the video game. But it would get to the point to where we would say, you want to go outside and ride bikes? Yeah, let's go outside. You didn't have to tell us. We wanted to be outside. I mean, we would come in, cool off a little bit, but then we would be right back outside, riding our bikes through the neighborhood. Being places we weren't supposed to be, out in the wilderness. I mean, could have gotten bit by a snake, but we didn't care. I mean, that's just what we did. You didn't have to tell us to go outside. If anything, you were telling us to come back inside, because even when it was dark, we would still be playing like in the backyard or what have you. But you would have to tell us to come inside. And these kids today, they're just I don't know. I'm
too comfortable.
They're way too comfortable. And I think it's also the accessibility, because I start thinking, well, what if we had that accessibility? Because we didn't have cable, we didn't have streaming,
we didn't have phones in our hands constantly.
Yeah. And so I guess in a way, I mean, you can't blame them, but at the same time,
I would say more of the parent than anything.
Yeah. But I don't see how you could not want to not go outside. I mean, we never had to be told.
True. I always wanted to be outside. I still always want to be outside. So
I do too.
So, but Bobby, so with this combined to the first session, will be 2.5 hours.
Oh wow.
I was not even paying attention. I just literally looked down at the time and was like, shit. So, this was an amazing conversation. We're gonna have to do this again for a whole new episode, because I feel like I can talk to you about anything forever.
Yeah. And
so,
I didn't realize too that you lived in Maine.
Yes.
I have, now that I know that, I have always, and even my partner was like, we were talking about places we wanted to visit in the US, and I said, I've always wanted to visit Maine. I said, it's just up there, secluded. And, and I said, and there's, I've seen pictures of Maine, just the landscaping, the trees, and also too, I'm a big Stephen King fan. And
I love Stephen King.
And then I was a big fan of the movie The Good Son when it came out with Macaulay Culkin, and that took Maine. And so I was like, I gotta one day go and visit Maine. So
you should.
Yeah. And so I was like, I was like, what is it like living in Maine? Yeah. I was like, I gotta ask him.
It's pretty much the same as anywhere else. There is a lot you can find yourself going. So technically, where I live right now is considered a city, but it's not. You know what I mean? They call it a city, but it's not. So any of the city areas, you could take like a 5 to 10 minute drive and be in woods.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
So like it's the cities are big. Like Portland is probably our biggest city, but even if you're in the heart of it, like you can take a little bit of a drive and you're already in some woods. And
that sounds good to me.
Yeah. So there's a lot of farmland, there's a lot of areas that you could probably get lost and just walking. Like you could walk in on a trail and then be like, where the fuck was I going, or how do I get back from this trail? And it's growing up here has been fun. I mean, I mean, I don't know the difference between growing up anywhere else, just because I've grown up here, but I haven't been very far away from here either. Until recently. Me and my kids took a road trip out to Arizona last year, and we drove through Texas, and we were going through the turbine fields. And my son was like, "What the fuck?" He goes, "Who the hell wants to look at this shit all day long?" Because there was a few houses out there and some ranches, and they were just surrounded by the windmills. And he's just like, "That's kind of creepy."
Yeah, I would need some trees or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Texas is nice. I mean, I moved away from it, but I'm happy to be back. It's my roots. It's home for me, and so um, I miss the hospitality. I mean, of course, you don't find that in the Dallas area. You have to kind of go
Yeah,
out and get it. But
yeah. A lot of
um,
people here are pretty friendly, as well with the
mhm,
hospitality stuff, but it's kind of a hit or miss here. When I went down south, like going through Tennessee and stuff, and
mhm,
being in Arizona, like everybody I encountered was super friendly.
mhm,
But here, probably mainly because I spend most of my time here. I'm here every
mhm.
day. Um, it's mostly like the beach area where you run into the assholes, because you got the people that live in Massachusetts that come up here for their summer homes and shit like
Uh-huh.
that. So like you're in the beach area and they think that they own the beach
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But and it's funny too because you were talking about people seem to be geographically challenged.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of people that never even heard of Maine that I've encountered throughout my life. Like being in Massachusetts. I remember my ex-wife worked at this inn, and she was talking with one of the other some of the ladies that did the housekeeping, and she's like, they asked her where she was from. She's like, oh, I'm from Maine. And this is Massachusetts. This is 2 hours away from Maine. And she's like, I'm from Maine. She's like, where the fuck is Maine? She's like, 2 hours north of here. What are you talking about? She's like, I've never heard of Maine. And she's telling me the story. I was like, who the fuck? How do you live in Massachusetts, in New England, and not know that there's a whole state that is combined with
Yeah.
yours? You know what I mean? Like, because New England is Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut. Although Connecticut is considered the armpit, nobody likes Connecticut.
No. Well, it's funny because even south, I grew up south of Dallas, outside of the we were in Dallas County lines, but we weren't in the city, so we grew up out in the country. But whenever I mention like the little towns that are there, the little pockets of towns, like I went to high school in DeSoto, and then when I would mention to these people in DeSoto that my grandmother lived in Ferris and my other grandmother lived in Wilmer Hutchins, which was a neighboring town next door, they would say, "Where's that?" I said, "Well, you know where Lancaster is," and they go, "Yeah, and that's right next to DeSoto. And so if you keep going further, you will eventually get to Ferris, Wilmer Hutchins, and such." But they never even been that far out. But it's only like a 25-30 minute drive, and I'm just thinking, how do you
Wow.
not know? Like, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
right there. I mean, I could understand maybe if you hadn't set foot in it, but you don't even know that it's there. I mean, it was just kind of bizarre to me that there's even in Dallas, there's certain towns that I'll mention, people don't even know what I'm talking about. I mean, it's just weird. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a little weird. Um, but anyway, if you guys ever do find yourself up here, I would be happy to get a beer with you or something. Maybe even go fishing. Maybe I'll take you to my favorite fishing place.
Okay. I fish, so yeah.
Yeah. Um, but anyways, so any closing statements, anything, any words of wisdom that you would like to bestow on the listeners today? Because I know this episode's a little bit different than the
Yeah.
ones that I mostly do, because I mostly focus on paranormal and supernatural stuff.
Yeah.
And I know we got into flat Earth, which is a little of like the conspiracy. So like I do touch on conspiracies, but I do have the episodes that are more specific.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever done a one-on-one episode for conspiracies, but um I figured I'd ask you if you had any kind of words of wisdom that you would like to bestow before we close this out.
Well, I think I'll relate it to my podcast since, I talk about everything under the mystic umbrella. So, I'm a big believer that we're conscious energy, and as you know, just energy alone doesn't die. So I don't believe we ever die. And so if you ever reach a point in your life where you hit a roadblock, or you're thinking, why did this happen to me? Um, we chose this life, kind of like I said early on in the podcast, or the episode we were attempted to record.
Yeah.
I had mentioned, that we chose our life for this experience. So metaphorically, if you think of it as, well, why would I choose this life? Well, if you know you're going to go back home, but yet you knew you were going to come into this existence and not have any kind of memory whatsoever, almost like a total recall experience, where you have no recollection of where you came before. But before accepting this journey, you're going to come back home. So it's all good. So just know that, that no matter what, we always live. The body's nothing but a material, mechanical object that our conscious energy is being housed in. And then if we subscribe to all, flaws and all, for this experience. There is a lesson that we took on from living this existence that we chose. So there is a lesson there. And so I would just say, if you find yourself getting upset about something, someone pissed you off, or you're running late to work, or try to figure out, or better yet, like, I can't get my bills paid. Why did I lose my job? There's a lesson in that. Just like my DUI. I think because I went through that, it humbled me to the point to where I started going down this spiritual path that I had never been down in my life, and really understood that it doesn't matter what anyone thinks about me. I don't need, someone's validation. I can simply validate myself. And it's very important to, even not in a narcissistic way. I'm not talking about posting this like anywhere, but just for yourself,
Right.
to tell yourself that you're proud of yourself. I think that's most important. And I think that's probably one of the lessons that I needed to learn in this existence. And much like the metaphor I used earlier, it's like when you would see a trailer to a movie. Life is like a movie. We go for different experiences. We go to cry, we go to laugh, we go to get scared, for all these different feelings and emotions. And I think that that's very much like going to go see a movie. You saw the trailer, you made a conscious decision to go see that particular movie, whether it was to laugh, cry, or what have you. You went there to have an experience, and whenever you're watching the movie, you capture some of the scenes that you saw in the trailer, which is where I said earlier, I think that that's where deja vu comes from.
Yeah.
Is I got to kind of witness and see my life like a play-by-play before initially accepting it. And so I do believe that life is like a movie. We see movies sometimes that, we end up crying at the end, and we're like, why did I do this to myself? Even though we knew this was going to happen.
Uh-huh.
But I think we do it simply to get something from it. And so I feel that life is like a movie. We come here for this experience, and note to self, I'm not going to do this one again, but hopefully I've learned my lesson once I've crossed over out of this existence, because I do believe we float through the cosmos and we look for our next journey. So when life gets hard, just know you're breathing, you're alive. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. Anything that's rocky right now, or life is like a roller coaster. So when you're down, eventually it has to go back up. That's just the way life works.
Perfect. Well said. Thank you, Bobby. I appreciate that. So anyways, everybody, that is the show. Please go check out Mystic Talk. Season 2 is starting this month. By the time this episode comes out, he should have quite a bit of episodes out. So I implore you all to go check that out. I would appreciate it. I'm sure he would appreciate it. So with that being said, if you want to be featured on this show, you can reach me at wheretheweirdoneare@gmail.com or my Instagram where_the_weirdOnes are. That's where I'm most active. I have a Facebook, but I constantly forget that it's there. But that's where the weird ones as well. You can find Bobby under Mystic Talk at on Instagram. Did you say?
Spotify.
And so it's on Spotify. And what else did I want to say? I think that's all I really wanted to say for the end here. So, but anyways, with that, I hope you guys go check Bobby out. He's a lovely conversationalist. I really enjoyed talking to him. So check out his podcast, follow his Instagram, and I hope you guys have a good day, a good night, and stay weird.
This concludes our broadcast day. Click.
Because in the end, none of us have very long on this earth. Life is fleeting. And if you're ever distressed, cast your eyes to the summer sky, when the stars are strung across the velvety night, and when a shooting star streaks through the blackness, turning night into day. Make a wish.